All right, everybody, how's it going today? We had quite a chapter, didn't we? Yeah, it's Morgan time. I'm so happy we have this emote now. We have Morgan time. I forgot we're supposed to vote on one new emote to get. We get a new emote. JWP, thanks for gifting a membership. Who got the lucky membership from JWP? Also, guys, let's like the stream. Let's get the stream to at least 100 likes real quick. Wait a second. Wait a second. Esteban BR has a brilliant theory in chat. Actually, a very interesting one. He says Rox was turned into a baby by the awakening of Bonnie's fruit and was adopted by Roger at God's Valley as Buggy. Wouldn't that be insane? Wouldn't that be crazy? Wade Turner says, who did you beat up today? A lot of children. That's what took me so long. I was walking by a preschool and I was like, not today. These kids think they can just go about their day free from harm? Not on my watch. And so I showed them a thing or two. Sheriff Laffy says, thanks for the 5. Hello, big news, Morgens. I don't think this chapter was kind to Crocodile and Mihawk. Oda seemed to paint Buggy as more of a true pirate than either of them. That's because Buggy is more of a true pirate than either of them. That's not a knock on the, it's just, I do find it funny that the last few chapters we've been on a bit of a roll where it's like, okay, we get a Shanks chapter, we get a Garp chapter, we get to hype up some of these characters. We get a hype Shanks chapter, he destroys Kid. We get a hype Garp chapter, Galaxy Punch, taking out Aokiji. Even arguably Blackbeard, he took out Law, that's to be expected and stuff. But then we get to the Mihawk stuff, and I was like, well, this doesn't make him look good. This was a Buggy chapter more than a Crocodile and Mihawk chapter, that's for sure. This was a great Buggy chapter, to be honest. This was, I think, a phenomenal chapter in my opinion, just because it's the first time in the entire story that it makes you take Buggy seriously. It changed my perspective on his character. It's awesome seeing this gag character finally not finally have some depth and true motivation come out, and even just the flashback to changing our perspective on how his discussion with Shanks went and how he actually views Shanks. It does my heart good to see that there is actually a genuine bond that Buggy considers Shanks a real friend at the end of the day. He wanted to join his crew. He was Shanks for Pirate Kid, for Pirate King. Isn't that pretty cool? It just changes your perspective of the beginning of the story and even just like the Orange Town arc so much. I really, really like that. Look, Mihawk and Crocodile, their time will come. At least Mihawk's, I hope. Crocodile, I don't have crazy high expectations for how strong Crocodile is right now. I don't care that much. I think what's cooler about Crocodile so far has been his planning, his scheming, getting all of this stuff together, being the mastermind behind all of that. I don't need him to fight, some top tier or something. Oda at this point could write Crocodile's strength however he wants. It's been 2 years. He could say Crocodile was good at hockey once in the past and got it back, or he could say Crocodile's gotten stronger recently. Oda can do whatever he wants with Crocodile's strength. Mihawk's really the one that we want to see some stuff out of, right? I don't think this was the time. This was a moment more so to hype up Buggy. I think it was really, really cool I think people are getting too caught up because they want Crocodile and Mihawk especially to look badass. We gotta, just hats off to the character that was actually supposed to shine here. Maybe at the expense of making 2 other characters look, less less in line with the pirate spirit, I suppose, than the most jokey gag character, comic relief figure in the entire story. But that's cool, For Buggy to have the boldness to be like, we're going after the One Piece, when both Crocodile and Mihawk are like, no, that's not, we don't want that. We don't want, even if you got those two basically saying, that's not the best idea. I think that's a really, really cool way to write Buggy. And, they'll get their time. Mihawk especially, I think he'll get his chance to shine. I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Guys, let's get the likes up to 200. Stormfox says Mihawk has no ambitions anymore, weaker than Shanks. God damn it. This chapter, it's going to be all Mihawk and Shanks, isn't it? Just all Mihawk and Shanks. That's all the discussion's going to be, right? Banort says, how do I cope with the Bucks losing? How do I cope with the Bucks losing? Um, if you were a Bucks fan this entire year, I do feel really, really bad for you because this is just a really sad way to go out. At the end of the day, you guys won a championship recently. So it's like, in my mind, it's like, get over it. You won a championship recently. 2 years ago. That's not that long ago. Um, yeah, I think just get over it. I think that the team will regroup, be better. You guys still have Giannis. It's fine. Um, just get over it. you know? Indian Punjabi Prince Small PP Man says, Morge, do you like kids? I think when I have children of my own, I will like them. I think when I have children of my own, I will really love them. I will raise them. Like, I really like the idea of having one or two mini-me's that I could raise to be basically exactly how I want, you know? And just invest all of my time and energy into. I think I'll really love my kids. But in the outside world, I hate general kids because they're just annoying human beings that haven't learned to do the things that human beings are supposed to do, right? I think it's impossible to not be annoyed by kids. Well, I guess there's some weirdos that actually think like kids are cute and stuff like that, or like fun to have around. But anybody with a brain or anything like that, or like, you know, any sort of like standard for or like standard for not tolerating bullshit, I suppose, hates having kids around because they're just the dumbest, most annoying little things in the world, aren't they? But my kids, I think they'll be great. I will raise them quite well, I believe. Sean Easton, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 7 months. Great Aokiji video, man. Thank you. I'm happy about that. I'm probably going to do more of that stuff as we keep getting to the important characters in the story, so I'm happy that we're getting to just get more out of, Garb Aokiji characters like these, their motivations in the present day. Quick question, as you continue to grow, when can we expect a more professional streaming style, like being on time? Lol. Buggy for the win. Listen, are professional streamers always on time? Is that a thing? Can someone confirm? Let's make sure that that's true in the first place. We don't want to be working with any false premises. Let's get that out of the way first. Who knows if they're on time or not? JWP says, unironically have Buggy as a top 10 character. Dude, this was a really, really cool moment. I love this moment. I think that this really changed my view of the character and what Oda's doing with the character. I mean, even if this is where it peaks entirely, I think just what little Oda did this chapter, just with the flashback, with his declaration here, I think it's one of my favorite moments in recent memory in One Piece that a character has done. Whole Flat says, Buggy was so cool. I agree. With how Crossguild is shaking the Marines in the world, how do you think their role in the final war looks now? I'm excited because I still don't imagine Crossguild being too impactful in terms of, I just don't see it in terms of how much they're really, really going to shape the story, because it's like, are they going to be integral to taking down the world government? Maybe, like, there's the characters that we're dealing with right now, right? We know Shanks' role ultimately is probably to be the biggest gatekeeper to Luffy getting to One Piece, right? Or some sort of a trial or test. And we know ultimately that what's coming for him is probably a defeat to Blackbeard, right? Something very dramatic there that emotionally adds some weight to Luffy eventually defeating Blackbeard. So that trifecta of Yonko, we can understand their role. Crossguild, there's not a clear way that they slot into that, other than just making things more exciting, providing more action, more matchups, and making it feel more like a battle royale. That's what I've got to say for now. If there's a more clear role for them in the future, that's great. But at the moment, I'm perfectly fine with them just being maybe playing spoiler in some sense and ruining others' plans, or just making for some fun fights, or being a matchup that's going on one side while Luffy's fighting the Strats are fighting one Yonko crew on the other side. Who knows? Nerve MV Maker says, we've seen two Yonkos fight. Haven't we seen all of them fight? You're saying fight each other? I feel like we've seen Kaido and Big Mom fight. We've seen Shanks and, we've seen Luffy and Kaido fight, right? We've seen Shanks and Whitebeard clash. I feel like we could see a 4-way Yonko fight for the last Poneglyph. That would be insane. Shanks versus Luffy versus Blackbeard versus Mihawk would be insane. I agree. You took the words right out of my mouth. Stormfox, thanks for the 5. It's very refreshing to see how Buggy thinks in a non-joking way. Yeah, I agree. It's just, It's I think one of the better things Oda has ever done with one of his I think it's maybe the best thing. No, you know what? Oda is very. It depends what you define as a gag character or not, right? Because you could say Bon Clay was a gag character, but then how he rounds out the Alabasta arc, not even getting to Impel Down and Marine Forward stuff, right? Just how he rounds out the Alabasta arc with Bon Clay, that's phenomenal. Buggy was probably, but Bon Clay was probably never as much of a gag character as Buggy. It depends. Oda's just good with these gag characters when he wants to. When he wants to flesh them out, he can do really great stuff with them. Also, F's in the chat for another Dead Morge theory. No random light references Dome. Wait, is it? I mean, he's gonna explain what happened, right? I would agree that there's nothing here that confirms it, but at the same time, we don't know how they got away from the Lucia Kingdom unless, is it explained? Did they just pick up everybody beforehand and then leave the Lucia Kingdom and then the Lucia Kingdom died? I guess so. I guess so. Let's just see what Sabo's got to say. Mig Doddles, thanks for the 2. T-Bone didn't deserve it. Thoughts on second Chainsaw Man? Hey, no, we're not gonna spoil any. Like, you gotta keep it low key with like talking about other series, especially recent chapters and stuff from a series like Chainsaw Man. I thought the recent chapter was good. That's all I'll say. T-Bone didn't deserve it. Yeah, T-Bone of all people. I thought that like, why'd Oda kill T-Bone? I mean, it's cool that Oda's killing characters off like this left and right, I suppose. Even if it's side characters and we're not really seeing the deaths, it's cool to think that there is death and consequence happening in the One Piece world. It's not just like Blackbeard killing Absalom on one side. It's, you know, the Cross Guild members causing the death of T-Bone. It's really, really strange. I mean, it's funny to think that we're thinking of Cross Guild. Like, we like these characters at this point, right? We like Buggy. We like Mihawk. It's really fucked up that they got T-Bone killed. Like, that's really fucking fucked up. Like, that's really bad. That's one of the best characters, the most pure characters in the entire story. And it was basically almost a gag the way it was portrayed, how, you know, Buggy's treating the guy for, you know, like, good job, you're a pirate now, yay. But I think that does help hammer in the idea that, look, even though T-Bone's a good guy, what is also being stressed this chapter is just how many people are suffering, right, in the world, largely due to the Marines not doing the best job protecting them. Right, has been explained, the imbalance in the world is usually due to some nations being able to pay Celestial Gold versus other nations not being able to pay Celestial Gold. So I think it does go a long way to emphasizing that, look, even if someone like T-Bone is a good character, that doesn't alleviate him from the overall sins of the world government and the way the Marines function, I suppose. Take Inventory says, thanks for the 5. Can you watch the theory video by Free Arizona titled Why Luffy Will Lose His Left Eye to Blackbeard? It argues a return to Wano arc. I do agree that there will be a return to the Wano arc. So I have my own thoughts on that. Because I think that there's a lot of things that suggest that we will return to Wano. But I'm not going to watch a full video talking about why Luffy will lose his left eye to Blackbeard. Although I definitely think it's a very believable theory. Yeah, I'm not watching another theory though. I don't know if you like it. Whopper, maybe I'd watch it just to make sure that if when I make my video on why we're going back to Wano, there's no overlap there. But I'd be happy if he's right. That's a cool development, but I'm just not going to watch some other dude's theory. Whopper Ave says, just wanted to thank you for all, thanks for the 10, man. Thank you for all the content and enjoyment you bring to me. Oh, that's a very nice thing to say. Thank you. Between university and delivery driving, I listen to you all the time. Oh, that's nice. Thank you for the laughs, theories, and routine tardiness. This guy likes my tardiness. All right, so let's keep that in mind when we're discussing upgrading the streaming level, you know? Mr. Crescent says, I love all the Mihawk is a fraud talk. We're going to address that in a bit. How much of a fraud is Mihawk? I think on the one hand, it's being... Here's the thing. Here's the problem. Here is the problem. This is what I hate. And this used to be the same thing with Zoro and Sanji debates, which is just like... You can tell when a certain fan base is just like... It's not enough that they... Like, they don't just care about that. Like, they're just obsessive. They're just obsessive, and 50% of their love for a character is also matched by 50% just hate and like um, insecurity about how another character is written. So that's the case with Mihawk and Shanks, similar to Zoro and Sanji. Here's what I have to say about like the Mihawk situation, which is like, and I'll get more into it as we go because that's just gonna be a hot topic of discussion for a bit. You can defend Mihawk, right, and give valid reasons for why this or that or whatever, right? Like, you know, why he's acting the way he is, without needing to write a whole new thesis on this, just like shitting on Shanks. It's like, well, Shanks, if you go on Twitter or whatever, people are like bending over backwards trying to like find some way to say that Shanks is like comparable or like similar to Mihawk in terms of like, it's just like, we see a panel of Mihawk sweating. You can go and be like, okay, so Mihawk sweating, like, we can give this context and stuff and say like, you know, he does clearly look shook, but you know, it's more so Oda adding like impact to Buggy's announcement and everything like that, right? It doesn't mean that Mihawk's a bitch or whatever. But then you have people like just suddenly being like, oh yeah, well, we can find a panel of Shanks sweating too, and they come up with like the worst example. It's like Shanks sweating because like that, all they could find is like Shanks sweating because he sees a future sight vision of Kid hurting his subordinates, and then Shanks one shots Kid. It's like what are you trying to, do you even understand, like you're just reflecting terrible reading comprehension or inability to think with basic level context of like why one character is reacting one way versus another character. It's like, you guys get what I'm saying? You can defend me, like, if you want to say, hey, Mihawk doesn't want to fight other Yonko because that's just not part of his agenda and he doesn't feel like it, that's cool. You don't have to like make up shit like saying like, well, Shanks was scared to go after Kaido and Big Mom, so he waited till they fell. It's like, do you not fucking read Marineford? It's the other way around. Kaido tried to pull up on Whitebeard, Shanks pulled up, and Kaido ran away. That's what we know for a fucking fact happened. And then Shanks pulled up to Marineford, literally tells everybody at Marineford, I'll fight you if you want, and everybody else says, no thanks, we're good. It's insanity. It's like, you don't have to make up shit about another character. It's just so weird. It's like, if you want to defend Mihawk, defend Mihawk. There's so many things you can say about this chapter to provide context for why Mihawk's doing what he's doing. But it's like, suddenly like being like going, like your brain going into overdrive, being like, let me just make some weird shit up about Shanks that is just blatantly not true. It's like, how dumb are you? Sheriff Fluffy, thanks for the 5. Sabo risked his life to save... Wait, fuck. We're scrolling too far now. Who's in the chat? Bragadier says, yeah, T-Bone is alive for sure. No, dude, I think he's dead. Everyone thank Polma for gifting 5 memberships. Everybody who got a membership from Polma, say thank you. Everyone say thank you. Hold on, I went too far down. God damn it. Gotta open up the supers tab. Everyone say thank you to Polma. Also, Talha Jahan, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. Feel like Zoro and Sanji are the only 2 Straw Hats who have an equally prominent relationship with another Straw Hat as they do with Luffy. Also, Buggy greater than Brook. Yeah, once upon a time I would have said that like Usopp and Nami have a really good dynamic, but that's just not focused on enough. Demon says Kaido didn't run away. It's like, he factually did. There's no like, that's literally what happened. Dimian writes as more, do you really think Kaido would just run away? That's okay. You could there's a few ways you could argue. You'd say either they fought and he ran away because he did not show up to Marineford, whereas Shanks did, or you could say they didn't fight and Kaido just ran away. There's no argument for saying that, well, Kaido beat Shanks or something like that and then just chose to go. That didn't happen. If you want to pull up some evidence or some panels suggesting that Kaido didn't run away, that'd be great, but we know for a fact what happened, which was Kaido tried to attack Whitebeard, Shanks showed up, Kaido left, did not attack Whitebeard, Shanks continued on to Marineford, unhindered by Kaido. Voko says it was just Kaido and King versus Shanks' whole crew. So you think that Kaido... No, because Kaido is trying to pull up to attack the Whitebeard pirates. Why would they pull up with just Kaido and King? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what would this be based on? I know I'm missing some supers. I'm pulling up the super tab and I'll cover all of them. Tomahawk PWPT, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for a month. I like this chapter because Buggy could inspire Hawk and Croc to aim higher, even though the two initially wanted to lay low. Could inspire passion again. Yeah, and that's important. Like, these strong characters, they don't have to be perfect from the get-go, right? I think it's cool to have a character like Buggy telling these characters like, hey, you guys can step it up. You guys are shooting too low. You know? Mad says they didn't fight and Shanks convinced Kaido. No, because it's outright explained like very early on that Kaido's personality is such that he's not a reasonable man. He doesn't listen to shit like that. Go look at Law and Doflamingo's conversation. The entire reason that like Doflamingo is scared shitless from Kaido, like it's spelled out very clearly for the reader. Kaido is not reasonable. If he's not getting what he wants, he'll just kill you. That's literally the opposite of how he operates. The only time we've seen Kaido cut a deal was with Big Mom because they decided to team up and pursue the same goal, which is not the case with Shanks. There's zero argument that Kaido didn't run from Shanks because that's there's nothing else that happened there. Watermelona says people will do anything to downplay Shanks' feat. Yeah, I mean, like, when you've got Kaido literally imagining in his head during the final battle of Onigashima the 5 people that he respects the most, you've got Odin, the dude who beat him in a fight, nearly killed him and scarred him. You've got the 3 other strongest pirates of all time, Roger, Whitebeard, and Rocks, who are all stronger than Kaido. One was his captain. And then you've got Shanks in there. I think you've really got to bend over backwards to be like, no, Kaido and Shanks, like, Kaido beat Shanks or something like that off screen, but then Kaido went home and then, like, what are you talking about? Like, when Kaido's referring to Shanks as, like, how high can Luffy's ceiling go? Shanks is part of that ceiling. Alright, pulling up supers, give me 1 second. But, I mean, I'm just saying, like, to argue that Shanks has avoided characters just makes no sense, because it goes against his entire track record throughout the story. Shanks literally walked onto Whitebeard's ship by himself. And they were not friends. They made it clear. Shanks was like, I'm on enemy territory right now. Shanks and Whitebeard, like, yeah, at the end of the day, they didn't kill each other, but Shanks literally walked into another Yonko's crew, like, his territory, surrounded by all of his commanders and Whitebeard, by himself, and was perfectly fine picking a fight with him, right? Immediately after that, Kaido's attacking Whitebeard. Shanks is perfectly fine pulling up to put a stop to it. If you want a headcanon some situation where Shanks, like, paid him off or something like that, if you want to imagine some totally new motivation or something we've never heard about from Kaido before, like, Kaido really likes, I don't know, mangoes, and Shanks showed up with a bunch of mangoes and gave them to Kaido, and Kaido was like, thanks, man, I guess I'll abandon my dream of being able to fight Whitebeard and go down as the strongest in the world or whatever. I'll just, or like die a good death or whatever against the world's strongest man. I'll just go home because you gave me some mangoes, and you really want to pretend that Shanks didn't just fucking scare him off because he's that strong. Then cool, you can go with that headcanon. But then literally after that, he's at Marine Ford, and at Marine Ford, he challenges everybody there to a fight. He's like, anybody that's here, Blackbeard, Sengoku, Garp, Mihawk, Admirals, everybody here, open invitation, whoever wants to fight, you can fight. Nobody picks up the challenge. There's no argument to say that Shanks is like, has ever in the story ever been afraid or worried to take on another character. That's just a terrible argument to make just to defend Mihawk, because you know you're just making, like, it's contradictory to his entire resume so far. Alright, we're going to start with Sheriff Lafitte says, Sabo risked his life to save Kuma, learned a huge truth about the world, and recruited more people, while Dragon is sipping tea and let Kuma go. So one thing I'll say is that I really hope Oda's got some really good stuff planned for Dragon soon, just because I think it's a little embarrassing that, you know, Dragon's been at this shit for years, for decades, right? For decades and decades. And it's just like, like decades and decades and decades, and already Sabo is the one that's being viewed as like the light of revolution throughout the world. At least that's what's stated recently, right? It's kind of weird. Shanks cried so hard that Kaido felt bad and left. This is not an argument about who's stronger, Shanks or Mihawk. I'm just saying that you don't need to make shit up about one character just to defend another character. Just talk about the context of this character in this chapter, right? We can understand why Mihawk probably doesn't want to go after the other Yonko necessarily. But that doesn't mean you gotta be like, well, Shanks was scared of Kaido and Big Mom. Motherfucker, Kaido was scared of Shanks. At least from any, like, unless you have extreme levels of headcanon, we have zero evidence to suggest that it's the other way around, and we know for a fact that Kaido has Shanks in his mind as, like, one of the 5 dudes that he respects in the world the most, that he turned away from attacking Whitebeard because Shanks showed up. And on top of that, he's phrasing it as, like, how high will your ceiling go? And he's got Shanks in his lineup along with, like, the dude that beat him, and then the 3 other strongest pirates of all time who are all definitely stronger than Kaido. Cigar Verk, thanks for the 5. The old guy that killed T-Bone was actually Morge, that's why he's late. God damn it. Mork is actually 150 years old because he has 5 birthdays and a year. Happy birthday. El Aichi Mohammed says, you half called it. Oda didn't kill the milkmaid. I still want more context on the Lucia Kingdom incident. Is everybody there dead? Let's see. Ryan Andrews, thanks for the 5. Buggy stocks are at an all-time high right now. I put his odds at ending the series as the known Pirate King at 30%. If he's like the Pirate King after Luffy, I think that'd be cool. But if he becomes Pirate King before Luffy, I think that'd be too much for a gag. I know he wasn't written like a gag character here, but I do think that it is very, very important to the story of One Piece that Luffy is the first person to become Pirate King after Roger. The only character that would feel kind of fitting would be if Blackbeard gets it first. I think that'd be a tremendous plot twist. And then Luffy kind of takes the throne back as the rightful Pirate King. But Buggy getting it would ultimately I feel like taking it too far to me. Also, Bucks fan, we have a title. Yeah, you guys got a title. Just hold on to that one, right? Behenor, thanks for the whatever this amount is. I can't tell. How high are the chances of a Reverie flashback soon, or will Oda off-screen as usual? I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get it this time. If the answer is somehow yes, what do you want Imu to look like? The only thing I'll say is that I think it would be nice if Im has a cool design. I know that Oda sometimes goes the way of, you know, some more comedic designs with some of his characters, but I do think that Oda, when it comes to, you know, like, a Big Mom is a goofier looking villain at the end of the day. But I think with characters like Doflamingo, Kaido, Crocodile, Mihawk, a lot of these more intimidating, these figures that are meant to be more intimidating, I think Oda delivers. So as long as Im feels like a final boss and not something kind of, you know, cartoonish One Piece style, I think I'll be happy. Like, I'm happy, like, I get why One Piece does a lot of cartoonish designs, and I like it in certain contexts, you know? Like, I think Eno is kind of a more of a silly character design than a really intimidating one, you know? I think that's good for some villains. I think Im would be great if he is played more serious. Polna, thanks for the 5. Yeah, Morge, most pro streamers are on time, but in your case, it's just that we are too early. Keep doing your thing. I like the way you think, Polmao. Thanks again for gifting subs. Or subs, memberships, you know what I mean. Umair Ula, thanks for the 5. How do you think Logia Awakenings will work? I think they will be different from what we expect since both Parmashia and Zone Awakenings are different. My take is that I think Logia Awakenings will probably just be weather related. That's kind of the small hints that we've been getting so far. And I think that that'd be cool. I'm good with that. Daniel Allen, thanks for the 5. What are your thoughts on this for Buggy as a character, possible character arc coming? Buggy making any major plays? Name, thanks for gifting 5 memberships, by the way. Everybody say thank you for name named. Everybody say thank you. Everyone say thanks. Sorry, as you were saying. Buggy is a character, possible character arc coming. I don't know how much focus will be on a Buggy character arc. I think what you see is what you get. We probably got one of his most important moments just right here, right now, just because there's only so much time left in the story and so many characters to focus on. So I feel like with Buggy, the important thing that he did here was force action in the story, right? So now Cross Guild is forcefully inserted into the mix for fighting for One Piece, which was important, right? So ultimately the plot development was the most important part here. Doing it by giving Buggy a good character moment was how Oda set up that plot development. So I don't know how much focus will be on Buggy's character arc from here on out, but it'd be nice if we get it. Isas1155, thanks for the 5. What do you think Mihawk will do feat-wise? fight Fuji, take out Big Mom Pirates. I think it'd be cool if he could push off the air using Conqueror's Haki to fly. So I don't know about that last part. I think Big Mom Pirates are too small potatoes at this point for Mihawk. I want to see Mihawk fight. I would love to see the Marines send an admiral after Mihawk at this point, just because it's like, why wouldn't they? You know, they've been doing so much. At the Cross Guild is the biggest problem of the Marines right now, by far. Shouldn't they send an admiral sooner or later? So I would love to see an admiral sent after Mihawk. I think Mihawk will get to flex against that. I don't think there's any other character left in the story that would be satisfying enough to see Mihawk face off against. You could talk about the other Yonko. If we got Mihawk versus Blackbeard or something, how insane would that be? If we got Mihawk versus Shanks, that would break the community. People would go. It would start a world war. That's too dangerous. We can't have that. So let's talk about an admiral. I think an admiral makes the most sense. Sean Easton says, thanks for the 5. As someone who has 7+ years of babysitting, you need to know how to communicate and play with kids. Also, they're mini them, not mini you. Lol. No, it's a mini me. And I don't want to learn how to communicate with kids. I need to learn how to communicate. Who the fuck is the adult here? Kids need to learn how to. They're the ones growing up in the world. They're the ones that are babbling stupid ass shit. They're the ones who need to get their shit together and learn how to communicate like real fucking people. Because once they become older, that shit's not gonna fly anymore, right? I don't need to learn how to communicate with them. They're the ones that need to be learning shit. That's why we put them in school. Let's not get this shit backwards, all right? And second of all, yes, they are mini-me's. Because otherwise, why the fuck would I create them? I don't want to create independent thinking creatures that could potentially rebel against me, maybe hate me or resent me in the future. No, they need to be molded. My children will be molded in my image and be made to think like me, respect me, follow rules, and ultimately become what I need them to be. And ideally provide a lot of monetary support in my older age. I will love them quite a bit, though, because of what they will do for me down the line. Big Bro Cook, thanks for the 5. Interesting how Buggy / Shanks dynamic is like Luffy Usopp if it never got resolved in Water 7. Interesting how Buggy Shanks dynamic is like Luffy / Usopp if it never got resolved in Water 7. Yeah, that's kind of funny. I think the Luffy Usopp dynamic was more serious because they were actual, they were actual crewmates at that point, right? Luffy was his captain, Usopp was his subordinate, but it's a miniature version, I would agree. Also, shout out to my new Viz translation movement. I don't know what that means. Andrew Anderson says, what Straw Hat matchup do you predict for the old man who killed T-Bone? What Straw Hat matchup do I... He could fight Chopper. Rowboat. Oh, maybe he fights Zoro. Zoro gets revenge on him for killing T-Bone. All right. Patricio Zambrano. What a cool name. Yeah, welcome to the Yonko. Thanks. Vinsmoke Morge. I am kidding, by the way, for people who are new to the stream. If I'm speaking seriously, I might want children at some point. But the reality is that the amount that it affects your life, right? Your life, your career, your goals, etc. basically is very, very drastic. So it's also just like, I heard somebody put it really well. Lots of people, when they want kids, they're like, oh, I want kids. It'd be nice to have like children or a baby or something like that. But that really what you're signing up for when you want kids is like, I want another grown-ass human being, essentially, right? That I'm in many ways responsible for. Like most people aren't thinking like, oh, I want a teenager. I would just love to have a teenager around my apartment, around my house. But that's what it's gonna fucking be. Like, most people aren't thinking like, oh, I want to have like an adult that I'm maybe paying to go to college or something. Like imagine you're just responsible for fucking paying for an adult to go to college or something. And they probably don't even appreciate it that much while they're doing it or while you're doing it. Um, I just want a younger adult that I'm have this important parental relationship with for the rest of my life, and they'll be like 30 at some point, and I'll be like 60 or something. Like it's so much more, um, you know. Cross Guild Robot Cop says, yeah, Cross Guild is ultimately a vehicle to get Mihawk to Zoro for their final fight. I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. That's probably the most important part of it, but I like to think that there's something more in there. Abdurrahman Amari says, "If thanks for the 5. If Burn Scars can be Scopper, can Buggy get the Poneglyph and the others 3 Yonko, Shanks, Blackbeard, and Luffy chase Buggy? It's to everyone chasing Buggy. That'd be hilarious. Maybe. Jaren's Rambo, thanks for the 2. You gave us a kid analysis. Where's the law analysis? Dude, honestly, I could make a very good video on law, I believe. Maybe once he makes a comeback and has a good moment, I'll do a law video. Because if I separate my personal feelings about Law from everything, he's a very good character that I could talk a lot about. Banana Cloud, thanks for the 5. What if Buggy versus... I want to make a Law video that's good enough that I never have to hear about how I hate Law again. But internally, I will still dislike him. Banana Cloud, thanks for the 5. What if Buggy versus Usopp happens? Buggy would be a hard target to hit. If Usopp wins, he'd have the clout of beating Yonko, the battle of the weakest. I think that Usopp should be well beyond Buggy at this point in time. As far as we have seen, Buggy has never gotten stronger from pre-time skip. You know? I think Buggy has never gotten stronger. And I think that at the very least, like... How do I say this? Usopp, he should be, you know, he should just be well beyond an East Blue villain at this point, you know? It shouldn't even be close. Oh, I missed a... Thanks, Virgil Hawkins. I missed a 3-month membership from Summarization. Love the dynamic in this chapter. Seeing Buggy still believing in the dream versus these 2 serious pirates was inspiring, reminded me of Jaya. Yeah, that's really important. Like, that is important. I don't think people like the idea that Mihawk or Crocodile had to be shown... I think especially Mihawk had to be shown up in any way by Buggy. But it's just like, dude, your character's not perfect. the character's not supposed to be perfect, you know? I think it's pretty inspiring that that Buggy, of all people, was able to kind of shake up how they think about things. Brago Diaz says kids are broke roommates. Yeah. Who wants that? Did I miss another? Okay, Virgil Hawkins says, I missed a 3-month membership from Hurrying Lyrics 44. Thanks, man. Mihawk is embarrassing an admiral in the future. Yeah, I think that'd be cool to see. Because we saw Shanks do it to Green Bull, so just to keep up that sense of parody, I think Mihawk's got to do it to somebody. Silver Bum, thanks for the 2. He says, Polma, thanks for the 2nd gift sub. I'll give you top. What does that mean? Oh, wait, never mind. I thought you were going to say something like, save for work, like, you know, I'll give you top dollar or something like that in, like, a top dollar donation or something like that. But all right, Polma, you're a lucky guy. Talk to Silver Bum outside of chat. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. T-Bone probably offered his life to those people so they could pay for food with his bounty. That's honestly possible. Also, love the character dynamics between the current Yonko. Yeah. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. This is the start of people rising up against the world government. I think we need a big incident or something really like this is the storm beginning to brew. But we need a trigger. We need a catalyst. Dragonfire, thanks for the 5. Buggy and Shanks moment was like Usopp versus Luffy, so this is the 2nd time I'm seeing this comparison in the stream. Emotional moment plus feeling inferior made them feel like Luffy and Shanks abandoned their ideals and felt betrayed. Yeah, I would just say that moment was much more serious considering the context, whereas Buggy versus Shanks, it was Up till now they were just friends. There was no plan or anything like that Buggy was going to be part of Shanks' crew. But I agree that it feels a little similar. It's nice. Good lift. Thanks for the 10. World government top jobbers have a nuke and killed no one. Have a nuke and killed no one. Yeah, kind of. They might have killed people. We don't know who. I think people were on the Lucia Kingdom. Kind of the only non-jobber in the whole damn system. Yeah, and plus random civilians who are apparently killing people nowadays. Those extinct races were even more incompetent when they didn't manage to beat these fumblers. Dude, how they took out the Lunarians, I have no idea. Dragonfire, thanks to the 2. Knowing T-Bone, he let him kill him to feed his family. Yep. Dragonfire says, also, thanks for the 2. Also, T-Bone was posthumously promoted to Vice Admiral. Goat. Was it confirmed posthumously? Or are we sure that didn't just happen over the time skip? Maybe I missed it. Daniel and Alan, thanks for the 2. Leaning more for Yamato or Bonnie for Straw Hat? Gun to my head right now, I have honestly no idea. Gun to my head right now if I had to pick one. Caleb Keller says I missed another one before that. Was it from Hurrying Lyrics 44? I think I got that one. I don't know. I'd say maybe what do you call? I don't know. Between those two, I have no idea. It's hard to say. I think those are the two best possibilities right now. Shadow, thanks for the 2. Luffy hasn't been in the story for over a month. Yeah, and it's been a good month, right? Sumarization, thanks for the 5. Makes sense the warlords would think this way. They gave up their chance for the One Piece for cushy jobs like Moria, though Crocodile had grand plans. I think the one thing we gotta look at is, is Buggy right in his assumption that Mihawk once dreamed of Pirate King and gave up on that? Because I think if that is true, then does not make Mihawk look good at all. Because your ambition is your worth in One Piece. I like to believe that Mihawk never cared about Pirate King, and that he only ever wanted to be the world's strongest swordsman, and basically achieve the pinnacle of what could be achieved in his line of ambition, basically. That's what I think. But at the same time, it's like, we don't know, because it does feel like what Buggy's saying is meant to have some truth to it. Guys, let's get the stream likes up to 300. Let's get it up to 300. Pocket Monster, thanks for the 5. I'm starting to theorize that the Marines were once a pirate group. Thoughts? The Marines were once a pirate group? I mean, the idea is that the world government was basically it's just a alliance of a bunch of nations that came together and took down a perfectly fine kingdom. Hold on, I'm still catching up on supers for no reason. So, like, the idea is that, they basically, there's nothing that makes them different from pirates other than they have power so they can declare themselves the government, justice, etc. Okay. Anthony's crew, thanks for the 5. Next chapter, we're going to see Sabo explain why he ran from Green Bull. Also, Fuji and Sabo were bruised, and Green Bull was spotless. Then Negs, King, Queen, and Weevil. Okay, I forgot every stream he covered with this Green Bull agenda. Can't say it's a bad thing because someone's got to do it. Everybody else makes fun of him. Ray Uchiha, thanks for the 5. We're forgetting the most important thing. The true hero of the story, Moda, is back. Also, like the stream. Yeah, guys, like the stream. Let's get the stream likes to... honestly, let's get them to 400. They're pretty low at the moment. I forgot to ask earlier. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. Shanks sweats when Makino makes him pay child support. Makino Yonko level. Sheriff Fluffy, thanks for the 2. Ryokogyu is the Westbrook of One Piece. He just running around doing nothing. Look, Ryokogyu brought in King, Queen, Weevil. I think he's been honestly cleaning up way more for the Marines than any of these other admirals. It's just that when it's playoff time, when you got to play Shanks, he clearly ran away. So, take that as you will. JWP says, thanks for the 10. I think you said it in a Morgecast, but in my opinion, the longer a top 10 to 15 character stays around, the more likely it is that they're closer to 1 than 15, i.e. Shanks, Blackbeard, etc. I agree with that. I think I made that argument in a video recently, and in a Morgecast. For those of you who don't know, Morgecast is the exclusive podcast where you can get my unfiltered thoughts, things that I don't say in videos, things that I don't even talk about on the stream. You can get it by either becoming a $5 patron or just by becoming a Yonko tier member of the channel by hitting the button below. It comes out every single week. The last one I did was on 420. I don't want to explain what happened there. It's a little complicated, but I recorded it while high. I uploaded the wrong one. I uploaded an older podcast, and then I started getting random comments, and I was like, oh my god. So this is it was just kind of embarrassing because I'm like, the one that I recorded while I was high was the only day that that I uploaded the wrong one, and that, that go figure makes sense. Gudliff, thanks for the 5. Impel Down makes no sense. Every pirate is wanted dead or alive. In such a system, you don't get imprisoned, you get hanged. Does Impel Down make no sense? Is that true? If everyone's wanted dead or alive, maybe it's more like we don't, when it's time to capture them, ultimately we view these guys as a threat, so, just bring them in any which way. It doesn't matter too much to us. Like, if you gotta kill this guy, it's fine. We'll deal with it. We'll still pay you. But, if they're brought in alive, then the world government's not just gonna execute them on the spot necessarily. They stay in jail for a while, and then some of them get executed. I don't know exactly. Patricio Zambrano, thanks for the 5. So many back-to-back fire chapters. Oda is in his Jordan era. I agree. Summarization says, Morge was right. Oda couldn't kill Moda. He couldn't. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Do you think Shanks told Kaido to wait for Nika a little while longer when intercepting him, likely implying Luffy? Maybe. JWP, thanks for the 5. New feats are making Big Mom look like an actual bum. I agree, but she always was. Also, Egghead is making Wano look bad. Egghead is just really hard to compare to any previous arcs because it's just pure hype stuff happening all over the place, right? Hype stuff, crazy plot developments. It's just hard to compare to other arcs which are trying to tell more traditional narratives. I mean, I like it better than Wano, but like, if I'm being fair and stepping back, I'm like, it's apples and oranges comparison. How do I compare Egghead to even something like Arlong Park? I think a lot of people right now would be like, oh, Egghead's way better, but I'm like, but Arlong Park's a much better story and much more emotionally moving. It depends what you value more. Bunfagum says, Morge, rank the last 4 chapters. That's a fun one. I would say, shit, that's difficult. That's really hard, actually. It's really difficult because recency bias is a thing. So for me, like, I think when Shanks took out Kid, that was the most mind-blowing moment out of the 4. But it's also, I'm almost tempted to put it last just because in my mind it happened eons ago, so like the hype is worn off, if that makes sense. It's just too difficult to rank them because I think I was probably most excited from Shanks just taking out Kid. Probably that was the best, but at the moment I'm like, well, I like this chapter a lot. I think the Marines raiding Blackbeard's Island was cool. I think it's too hard, man. I don't know. I can't rate them. They're all 10s. King G, thanks for the 2. Jimmy Butler and Oda are my top 2 favorite humans. Dude, Jimmy Butler's... I like... The LeBron fan in me also makes me happy every time Jimmy Butler does stuff because it helps validate the idea that LeBron did have a difficult opponent in the 2020 finals, because at the time people were like, well, he just had to play Jimmy Butler, and now it's like, it's motherfucking Jimmy Butler. You know what's funny? I'll say this real quick. Last year the playoffs closed, and lots of people were saying, like, people were doing like their player rankings and stuff like that, and you often saw Jimmy Butler. This was weird to me. Jimmy Butler was rated, most people were placing like Jimmy Butler below Jason Tatum. I would see, like, Tatum's a top 10 player. Jimmy Butler's, he's probably almost as good as Jason Tatum. I was like, how the fuck? Jimmy Butler's clearly better than Jason Tatum, at least last year. Clearly better. I mean, Jimmy Butler's, like, he should be in discussion for top 5 player. Well, maybe that's not fair because consistency, but, like, he's clearly better than Jason Tatum because they're both inconsistent players. But Jimmy Butler, like, he was way better than Jason Tatum when they played in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Like, way better. Jason Tatum did not even look close. And then we saw what Jason Tatum fucking did in the finals, which was terrible. Compared that to Jimmy Butler in the finals as a fucking god. I'm like, who's a fucking better player? Obviously Jimmy Butler is. Maybe Tatum's caught up now. Let's see what he does in the playoffs now. But, I don't know. It's just Jimmy Butler just always gets slept on. It's good to see everybody remembering, during the playoffs, and then by next regular season they'll forget again. But I do think that that's fair because, in a way, because you should get punished reputation-wise a little bit for not caring about the regular season. You should care about the regular season because it's just like, that's 80% of watching basketball. So it's like, if you decide to take a vacation during that time, then fucking yeah, people will forget how good you are. I Could Drive, thanks for the 5. The flashback seems to confirm that the reason Shanks was crying has to be Roger telling Shanks some part of history since his goal changed. Yeah, I think that that's fairly clear that Shanks was told something that changed his mind about what he needs to do. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. What if Crossguild assaults Zoe to get the road poneglyph? Buggy knows about it. It would be really dirty of Buggy if he attacked his old friends, the Minx. That would change my view on his character a lot. I like to believe that there's certain lines that Buggy wouldn't cross. And Mihawk gets a feat against Zunisha, like deflecting their trunk. I don't care about Zunisha feats, I'll be honest. Mihawk could cut Zunisha in half, and I'd just be like, show me him against an Admiral. Umir Ula, thanks for the 5. You guys remember when people had Zunisha, like, in their top 30 lists? It was like, well, how are we scaling Zunisha here exactly, after Zunisha one-shotted Jack? Umir Ula, thanks for the 5. I feel like Luffy will lose his Devil Fruit against Blackbeard, and it will be a battle between Devil Fruits and Haki. This may lead to Luffy awakening a fourth type of Haki. I mean, we at least know that Luffy's Devil Fruit will be nullified. I do have an interesting theory about the Luffy-Blackbeard matchup that I'm not going to share here, but it's related to what you just said. Fourth type of Haki, I'm going to be... I don't know about that. Just because I think a lot in the One Piece world goes by 3s. Well, you could argue a lot goes by 4s, too. 4 Yonko, 4 Blues, 4 Poneglyphs. Then a lot goes by 3s, right? So, I mean, the 3 are 3 types of Haki, but then also the 3 ancient weapons... 3 types of Devil Fruits, 3 Admirals, 3 great powers that rule the One Piece world. You could argue it either way. Dragonfire says T-Bone was a rear admiral during Whole Cake Island / Reverie. Oh, I didn't know that. Alright, guys, let's get the stream likes to 400. Brago DA says, Jimmy is better in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, that's what matters at the end of the day, right? The thing about only trying the playoffs is that it's a real risk for your legacy. Because Kawhi is going to deal with this too, just on a less bad scale, because Kawhi's actually won 2 rings. But like, if you try in the regular season then, and also in the playoffs, then ultimately the benefit is basically, even if you never win a ring, then you still rack up a lot of all-star appearances, all NBA first teams and stuff. Maybe you're in the running for MVP. You can fill out your resume really well and you can build a legacy. Whereas if you're like, okay, I'm just going to slack in the regular season and only turn it on in the playoffs, that's cool, and people give you a lot of respect in the present day for it. But you're running the risk of basically being forgotten in the long term, because Jimmy Butler's legacy, like his resume, is not going to reflect how good of a player he actually was in the long term. I'd say Kawhi has the same thing, where it's like, like if this strategy nets Jimmy a ring, of like taking it easy and then turning it on, if that nets him a ring, then he was probably right to do it. But Kawhi Leonard, based on how good he is as a player, he could probably have won an MVP at some point if he tried in the regular season. He could probably have more first team stuff like that, but he just won't, because his mentality is like, I'm gonna fucking load manage and shit and then go all out in the playoffs and then do nothing. You got 2 rings, so his legacy is secure, but it's just like, at what cost? What it could have been. Mark Ross, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 7 months. You think it's possible to use Conqueror's Haki defensively? So maybe Luffy learns that as opposed to a new type of Haki. I feel like that would just be, a new usage of it. I've seen people joke about, in the Shanks Mihawk debate, without getting too into it, right? The Shanks Mihawk debate of like, oh, people think that Shanks with Conqueror's Haki, you can do all sorts of stuff that's pure headcanon, like creating a Susanoo armor or something like that from Naruto. And it's like, that's not even that out of that's actually that's a perfectly reasonable thing to think, considering you realize that Zoro with Conqueror's Haki literally creates basically what we would consider to be Susanoo in the One Piece world, which is Ashura. That's it's not that different, It's not even that weird to think that Shanks can create a Haki arm. I'm not saying he can, but I'm just saying, like, we literally don't know what Conqueror's Haki can do. And I've watched this dude Zoro from fucking pre-time skip give himself like 6 extra limbs and 2 extra heads and stuff like that. So, and it's not like, that's not an illusion, because that's actually adding to the strength of his attacks, which means that those things are coming into play, like, physically when he's attacking his opponents, right? It's adding more slashes to his moves and stuff like that. So, I don't know what to say. It's at least something tangible happening there. Name says, do you think Midgok doesn't have future sight, or is that reading too deep into him being surprised about Buggy saying that into the snail? Most characters don't use future sight all the time. Almost nobody is using future sight all the time. Only Katakuri is using future sight all the time. Like, it's not like Luffy is never surprised by anything from now. Like, it's shown that future sight is a technique that you turn on occasionally. It's the same way. You go back to Shanks in East Blue. He was surprised when Higuma did the smoke bomb and ran away with Luffy. Nobody has future sight on all the time. Only Katakuri does, and that's Katakuri's entire thing, that he's always vigilant. He's the only dude that's doing this extreme shit. Nervain V-Maker, thanks for the 5. Shanks pulls up on people, but he doesn't do it on a whim. He treats it seriously. I feel like Mihawk was just saying pulling up on Yonko is not a game. Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. That's like a perfectly fine argument. What I'm talking about more so is people being like, going overboard by being like, well, Shanks has always been scared of all these other Yonko. It's like, you look throughout the entire story, every single thing Shanks has ever done has shown the opposite. Every single thing Shanks has done has shown that basically he's literally not scared of a single individual in the One Piece world. And he's never ever had a single confrontation where he's the one that's been made to look bad. He's always been the one that basically ends or resolves a confrontation. But that's not to say that Mihawk is, that's again not to say Shanks is stronger than Mihawk or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, you can talk about the context of Mihawk not necessarily wanting to fight Red Hair, Blackbeard, and Straw Hat, and that's perfectly fine. We can understand why he would not want to do that, and that doesn't reflect poorly on how strong he is. But you don't have to go and be like, well, Shanks is a coward too. It's like, how about neither of them are cowards? How about they're both just, just logical, reasonable people, I will say that with Mihawk, we're waiting on the moment that he's made to look good still, right? Because Shanks had a good moment recently, Garp did. It's time for Mihawk to get a really cool moment. I'm waiting on that, because even if we can logically understand why Mihawk doesn't want to fight the other Yonko, let's get something to balance it out, maybe to show that, hey, he definitely could fight the other Yonko if he wanted to. Let's get a reminder, feats wise, instead of just his title, like what Mihawk can do. Ramen Stains, thanks for the 5. Hey Marth, I don't even play Marth, I play Fox. Just wanted to know which game you think was adapted best in Pokemon Adventures and why. Which game? Well, Pokemon, of course. It's called Pokemon Adventures. Get your head out of your ass. Yunus Ahmed, thanks for 5. With Buggy going after One Piece, wouldn't this be a good setup for Mihawk as an endgame/final fight for Zoro? Yeah, I think definitely, but I still think no matter what, it will have to happen before the final war with the world government. But over the course of the final saga, yeah. Name, thanks for the 2. Who do you have coming out of the East? Honestly, in my head for a moment, I translated that as East Blue. I was just like, well, I got the Strahds coming out of East Blue. Guys, let's get the stream likes up to 500. Ramen Stains, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 7 months, man. As someone who knows nothing about basketball, your rants have been really helpful for me, as I've been arguing about the viability of Air Bud at work. How have they been helpful? That's good to know. Flame Emperor, welcome to the Yonko. Thanks, man. Eric Trelata says, bruh, it's an illusion. If it adds more slashes and more strength to his attacks, it's not an illusion, dude. That's not what it is. Like, is Zoro hitting Kaido with... Is he hitting people with 9 cuts or 3? That's pretty much the difference. If it's 9, then it's not an illusion. It's literally something that's happening. If it's making his attack stronger, then it's literally something that's happening. There's a... JWP saying Zoro a hockey man? That's funny. Serio Underhill says, does that mean Zoro officially used Conquerors before Luffy? Yeah. I mean, Zoro also used armament before Luffy in the Mr. One fight. Or at least it's heavily implied. So Named asked, who do I have coming out of the East? I've got, dude, I had the Bucks. Like an idiot, I had the Bucks. I guess now the Celtics? I don't know. The East, I think... The East, it's too hard, man. I really, really don't know for either side. I'm going to say this. I'd say... I don't know. It's too hard. Maybe the Celtics. Maybe the Sixers. I'd say the Sixers have the best shot. No. The Heat have a really good shot, honestly. This is stupid. I'll think about it later. I personally think that if Jimmy Butler played Joel Embiid in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler would kick his ass. Because, like, I don't know. They were on the same team. Butler was better when they were on that team. I think Butler's just... I think Embiid's going to be... I don't know. I don't think he's going to... I don't know. Will of Davy, thanks for the fight. Is it weird to feel that the only current Yonko that won't get the One Piece is Shanks? The others have chances, but I don't think he'll be the one. I see what you mean in that, yeah, I think Shanks is basically guaranteed to not get the One Piece. I see what you're saying in that, well, Blackbeard could get it as a big villain twist. Buggy could get it as some crazy gag twist or some shit like that, you know? Some crazy, funny gag twist, which I wouldn't personally like, but I could see Oda doing. I mean, he made Buggy a Yonko, which I genuinely did not think he would go for. And then Luffy, of course, is Luffy. He's supposed to get the One Piece. But Shanks, there's no universe where he's supposed to get the One Piece, right? In fact, he actively chose not to pursue it. I Can Drive says, read 20th Century Boys, it's nearly perfect. The thing is, I've heard weird things about the ending. And if a series doesn't have a good ending, I'm not interested in it. Let's get the stream likes to 500, guys. Eric Trelato says he doesn't grow 3 heads, lol. It's an advanced Conquerors Hockey will thing. I mean, I'm not saying he, like, physically grows it. I'm saying it's like a spiritual manifestation, right? Which is what people talk about when they say Shanks could grow another arm, right? They're not saying he literally, biologically, like, his cells fucking mutate and he grows another arm. It's like, he could maybe have a... he could, create, basically, an arm out of hockey or whatever similar feat Zoro is doing with Ashura. That's, like, to say Susanoo makes no sense in One Piece is like... What the fuck is Ashura then? Just look at it. Godlift, thanks for the 2. Can't wait for Im to fuck up the whole power scaling. I hope he does. I hope Im is as strong as... Maybe NL is a bit ridiculous. I'm saying relatively speaking. Because NL, literally nobody could touch him besides Luffy. Which I think isn't fun, in my opinion. Because it's kind of like, how do I even scale this when he's basically intangible for everybody, right? But I hope Im is basically a level of broken where it's just inconceivable for anybody but Luffy to beat him. Tom, thanks for the 5. Missed matchup stream, but I think Brook could fight San Juan Wolf while riding Laboon. That's a funny thought. Also, I had a dream where Shanks made a hockey arm plus sword. LMAO. Well, that's very relevant to our current conversation. "20th Century Boys" has arguably one of the best endings. You were trolled. Dude, I don't know. I don't know. Mr. Sin says it literally interacted with the Kaido. What do you mean it's not physical? I'm saying like it's not a flesh and blood arm. I still think that the whatever's being created there is a physical, just a hockey thing, basically. Whatever you want to say. GDN, thanks for the 5. Buggy implied that Mihawk and Crocodile wanted to be Pirate King but gave up. Mihawk is such a fraud, OMG, why is he sweating so hard? Not my world's strongest swordsman. So, it depends on our interpretation of that line. The way it's framed, my interpretation of Mihawk has always been that he has no interest in Pirate King. Okay? I always thought that he had no interest in Pirate King, and he reached the pinnacle of his ambition, which was becoming world's strongest swordsman. If it's true that Mihawk was also a Pirate King wannabe, but, stopped at world's strongest swordsman, I definitely think that puts him in a worse light. Again, in One Piece, your ambition is reflective of your strength in many ways, right? How hard you push towards your ambition. So I think it would definitely make Mihawk look bad if he was just actually interested in Pirate King at one point and then dipped. The question is Buggy making an incorrect assumption there? The way the scene is portrayed, it is meant to seem as though Buggy is saying some words that do actually shake up these two characters. Like, not shake up, but there's some truth to them, I suppose. I just don't know if it really applies to Mihawk. I think we need to learn more about the character to say anything. For the moment, I'm just going to give Mihawk the benefit of the doubt that, I don't know. Mafak Kubesi says, Mr. Morjit the Fells, how's Elden Ring and what's top? I'm not going to explain shit to you on here. Elden Ring, I've not started. I feel like I want to play Bloodborne first because I feel like Bloodborne is... I want to do Elden Ring last, but I can't play Bloodborne because I don't have a PlayStation. You guys get what I'm saying? I can't play Bloodborne because I don't have a PlayStation, so I'm like, do I just wait till Bloodborne is on PC? Is Bloodborne ever getting on PC? Can anyone confirm? I also think I shouldn't play Elden Ring for a little bit just because it sucks up time. I do understand now, after having played a few like Dark Souls, Sekiro, etc., Dark Souls 3, I do understand why people like video games so much, like single-player games. Before this, I really didn't play single-player games. The last single-player game I played was like Majora's Mask 3 years ago or something. That was just a Zelda game. I don't play single-player games. I did go 3 straight months knocking out Sekiro, then Dark Souls 3. It does take up a lot of your time. Like, you just, it's addictive, right? You just, once you're done with your shit for the day, or you procrastinate shit and then you go play it instead. Sorry. So I've realized that while video games are fun, they're stupid and a waste of time. So that is another reason that I'll not be playing Elden Ring for a bit. But I do really want to play it at some point. So got to play Bloodborne first. Eric Trelato says, Bloodborne is never coming to PC legally. Well, what about in Australia? If it comes out in Australia, you'll ship it to me, right? John678, thanks for the 20. People keep quoting Oda saying that finding the One Piece will be the last thing that happens. I don't think so. I'm not saying that it won't happen, just that it'd be bad writing. The One Piece not being important to the outcome of the story/war. What do you think? Oh, you know what? Because in my opinion, One Piece is the destruction of the Red Line and the creation of a one-connected ocean. I think that that's the best theory I've ever read on it. And so I kind of stand by that being what the One Piece is. So to me, it's, I think that, I don't think getting to Laugh Tale is the end of the story, but I do think that the destruction of the Red Line, that ties together everything. It's the defeat of the world government, the defeat of Im, freeing the entire world, creating a new world, the dawn of the world, and it's Luffy basically unearthing, digging up the great treasure that is the One Piece, basically, as his final act. So I think that fits. Jolly D. Joestar says 20th Century Boys is an Attack on Titan ending type situation. So then it's controversial, which means that I don't think it'll be necessarily good, right? Will of Davy, thanks for the 5. That old line, if you're king of the pirates, then what am I, god of the pirates, might end up coming true because it's a fun gag, in my opinion. Yeah. Henchme976 says, everything is a waste of time on this spinning rock. Hey, if that's how you want to justify sinking, like, playing a single video game, it's crazy. It's like, beating Dark Souls plus the DLC took me 50 hours. Beating Dark Souls 3 plus the DLC took me 50 hours. Beating Sekiro with all the optional areas and bosses and mini bosses and everything like that took me close to 50 hours. 150 fucking hours I threw away learning what? To spam roll? To parry imaginary enemies? Fucking waste of time. I had a lot of fun though. But imagine that, with that 150 hours, the Wano video would have been done so long ago, right? It would have been done right away. Will of Davy, thanks for the... Oh, no, we're good. Bragorie says, Mihawk could have been interpreted, but due to his personality and strength, could be what's... And not due to his... Could have been interested, but due to his personality and not strength, could be what stopped him. Yeah, maybe he just got bored after a bit. I guess. But it's like, wouldn't you want a challenge? Maybe once he figured out that the One Piece is more of a fetch quest and not just beat up people and become Pirate King. But it honestly is kind of a beat up people and become Pirate King thing. Maybe once Mihawk realized that you need to have friends to do it. Once he realized that you need a crew. You can't just be this weird lonely dude that nobody likes talking to and nobody likes having around. Maybe once he realized that, then he realized he's just not cut out for Pirate King. Only popular people can become Pirate King. Or women that are willing to have literally, like, how many kids does Big Mom have? 80 children? Yeah, so either you need to, like, be willing to breed heavily, or you need to be popular and cool, like Shanks and Whitebeard and Roger. I guess you could be, like, a bully, like Kaido. But that's a lot of effort, right? Francisco Mas, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 7 months. Just entered the stream. This chapter was peak, and I love how Oda is starting to push all the main characters towards the big conflict. Yeah, Oda's really got shit turning right now. Like, this is just... We're spoiled at this moment in time. Too many good chapters. Let's get the stream likes to 500. Uchek, thanks for gifting memberships. Everyone say thank you to Uchek. Mr. X Potato, say thank you to Uchek. Royal Fun, say thank you. Wavy Wayne, say thank you. Pfefferdon, say thank you. Bad Magic, say thank you. Everybody who just became a member, flex on the non-members by posting emotes and stuff like that they're unable to post. Okay, where are we at? 1 second. Alright. I was reading the reactions to me saying that video games are a waste of time. Obviously, having fun is not a waste of time. Obviously. I do think that video games are particularly they're particularly time consuming, I think, just because of the nature of, you know, they aim to be as immersive as possible. They aim to be as immersive as possible. You could say the same thing about TVs and TV shows and movies and things like that. I just feel like there's a bit of a difference in that, I don't know, I think that with, like, TV shows and movies, I just personally feel like you can just get more mentally, like, I don't know, like, okay, let me put it this way. In a TV show, like, you're watching the show, right? So you're getting exactly what you put on. With a game, you can just get wrapped up doing stupid shit for no reason. There's wasting, like, an hour away for nothing. Like, if I'm convinced that traveling down this random area in, like, this random path or something like that in Dark Souls and, like, hitting my head against, like, an enemy that I'm not supposed to fight for, like, an hour or something like that, like, then I find out I'm supposed to go do this, like, 20 hours later. I don't know. Video games, I just think it's, like, it's a playground to lose your time, you know? And that's a good thing, right? You want entertainment to really suck you in. But I also recognize that, you know, if I just pick up another game after another game after another game, then I'm not really living life, am I? Will of Dave. Oh, wait. Where are we at? Umair Ula says, Morge, thanks for the 5. Can you tell me about your favorite genres of music and your favorite artists? I feel like we know nothing about your music taste. So, that's partly because I think I don't know how to explain this, but like, for me with me, okay, this will sound weird, but for me with music, I can't tell you what my favorite genre is, really, and I'm not trying to say that, like, oh, I'm really, it's more like, I'm not picky with, I don't think I get really picky or attached to certain artists, because for me, I guess, like, most music that I find or discover is just through Spotify, whatever, right? And I find that very rarely is there a time that I listen to something and I'm like, okay, I really like that. Let me check out more from this artist, and then I find more shit from the artist that I like. Very often, if I like a song or something like that, I tend to very quickly find that that's the only song by that artist that I like, at least from a brief skim. And so I've stopped really caring about what artists I listen to. I've just got a long-ass playlist of different songs. I suppose there's a common trend throughout those songs, because there must be something common that I like across the board with all of them. But I've never been one to really be like, oh, this artist, I really fucking like this artist, because yeah, usually I find it very, very rare that I like an artist for more than a small couple songs or something like that at most. Bassem El Madawi says, my friend roasted me for giving you so much money. What the fuck? What? He and I were mentioning how this chapter brought up starvation again. Maybe Luffy watched his mother starve to death and that radicalized Dragon. Well, I've got a thing or two to say to your friend. All right, bring him in front of the screen. All right. What are you talking about? What's the rest of your comment? He and I were mentioning how this chapter brought up starvation again. Yeah, maybe Luffy watched his mother starve to death and that radicalized Dragon. Luffy watched his mother starve to death? I don't think Luffy watched that. Luffy watching his mother starve to death would be kind of crazy. Was Dragon poor? Could he not buy his wife dinner? What's Garp doing? Did the Marines don't have a salary or something like that? I don't know if Luffy watched his mother starve to death, but I think that's an interesting idea. Is your friend in front of the camera? All right, I've got a message for them. All right. I should have thought through the message before I brought him in front of the camera. Okay, send him away. I don't want to talk to him. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Tell him to never show his face in front of this stream again. All right? And that it's your business who you chose to gift money to in general. In fact, this friend is a bad influence on you. I don't want you talking to him anymore. Can you make me that promise? No more talking to this guy. Mufak Kubesi, thanks for the 2. Morge D. Jobro, better name than Patricius by far. Mojo D. Jobro, better name than Patricius by far. I don't even know what that means. GDN, Deskainu versus Peacehawk versus Chairgon, who wins? I'm actually so... What are the last 2 comments? What the fuck's going on? Am I turning dyslexic? What the hell is this shit? Mojo D. Jobro, better name than Patricius by far. I don't know what that means. We're gonna ignore that one. Sorry, I can't read it. GDN, Deskainu versus Peacehawk versus Chairgon, who wins? I'm so fucking confused. I get Peacehawk, you're making fun of Mihawk for... Okay, Deskainu, because he stays at his desk. Peacehawk, because he's... Oh, I get it now. Deskainu, because he stays at his desk. Peacehawk, because he doesn't want to fight, even though he claims to go around looking for fights. Versus Chairgon, so Dragon, who wins? I will take Dragon out of those 3. JPress P, thanks for the 5. Do you think Sengoku will come after Cross Guild? Would Mihawk beating him be a good enough feat? Mihawk beating Sengoku? That'd be wild. That'd be crazy. Especially looking at, like, Aokiji struggling with Garp at the moment. I don't think Sengoku himself would come after Cross Guild. Goodlift, thanks for the 10. Oda goes through a divorce or something during the final war. Nami's matchup is Bizarro, gets bodied by an island. Frankie comes in and pushes one button, giving the Straw Hats their only kill, and by nuke. That'd be funny. Ryuchi, yeah, thanks for the 5. Oh, whoops. Skim past that. What happened here? Oh, Tekking's here. Just wanted to pop in to say R.I.P. Vice Admiral T-Bone. Okay, bye. Tekking, you're not a mod? I gotta make you a mod. Sorry, 1 second. Thanks for dropping through. Yeah, dropping through, Tekking. Rayuchia says, thanks for the 5. I've over 1,000 hours logged on Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, and I still play it and other Pokemon games. Alright, I have no response to that. Gudliff says, also missed my other super and some others. What the fuck? Alright, let me check. What else did I miss? We got this, we got this. I don't think I'm missing one. Maybe I took a little bit to get to it. Oh, no, I got it. Gudliff, thanks for the 10. Even the low bounties like Arlong and Kuro would get death/life by laws of most countries. I agree. Everything below level 2 should have been like, thank you, Luffy, my beheading was in 5 days. Maybe they are all on the chopping block. I mean, Ace was there before he got, the axe. Maybe Impel Down is mostly just a whole... Well, yeah, why are they keeping the worst... Why does level 6 exist? Why don't they just execute everyone there? Honestly, at the end of the day, it's just like, prisons are hype in fantasy worlds, not in the real world. In fantasy worlds, prisons are hype, right? Like, Arkham Asylum. It's like, after 80 years of these guys being shipped in and out every other week, it's like, oh, the Joker is punching back in for his 40th stint in Arkham Asylum. It's like, why don't we just fucking kill some of these guys? It's like, I don't know. Maybe because it's an asylum, so you're not supposed to kill them, but, like, isn't Arkham Prison also... Isn't there, like, a mix or... I'm rusty on my Batman shit, but... Maybe at a certain point you kill him, And then the blood's not on Batman's hands. It's just on the logical people who run these prisons. Again, there's no statement on real world shit and death penalties and stuff like that in the real world or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in fantasy worlds where you have confirmed killers with superpowers who regularly do this shit, and then they're let out of jail or break out of jail, and then they do it again, and then they put back in jail, and then they do it again, and then they... at a certain point you're like... Shouldn't we take more extreme measures in these fantasy universe? I'm not trying to get into real world shit, but you get what I'm saying, right? Alright, I think I'm caught up. Well, not caught up all the way, but caught up on any of the older ones. So, let's see. Alex Grayson, thanks for the 20. Thanks a lot, man. I know this is random, but have you ever heard of the Legend of Heroes game series? Based off how you've talked about One Piece and Hunter x Hunter, I think you'd really love it. Imagine the world building of One Piece with the character writing of Hunter x Hunter. I've never heard of the Legend of Heroes game series. I never have. I think that I'm not inclined to get into a game personally just because it's got really good character writing or story. That's just not what I'm looking for out of a game, but I am very pleasantly surprised if the game has that. So for example, I got way more invested in Dark Souls lore than I ever expected I would. And I think by the time Dark Souls, like when I finished out Dark Souls 3, the DLC in particular and the final battle and everything like that in the Ring City, I was just like, holy shit, this is one of the greatest mythologies I guess I could ever have imagined. There's a ton that you can look into thematically, subtext, like there's so much meaning to the way that story ends. It's still really, 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 I wouldn't say emotionally powerful, but just like the feeling that it leaves with you is very, 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 maybe it is, and there's different types of emotion, right? It's not like, oh, I want to cry at the end of Dark Souls 3. That's not it, but just the sense that you just finished something that is very, very, a lot more nuanced and complex in its ideas than you would have ever expected. And like the feeling that it leaves you when you're finishing out that game, thanks to slowly becoming invested in the lore and what's actually happening in that world, I do value that a lot. That's why I put Dark Souls 3 higher than higher than Dark Souls 1 and Sekiro at the end of the day, personally. But I see an argument for each. But that's not the first thing I'm looking for. That's more like cherry on top shit, you know? That makes it better. But I would never get into a game just because it's got like good world building or character writing. But thank you for the recommendation. I'll look it up just to see what it's about. Mohammed Rashid, thanks for the 5. What are the chances that Buggy is Conquers Hockey? I'm not giving it to him. He doesn't submit to other people's will, and people tend to submit to his. I think he does very frequently submit to other people's will. He gets bullied very easily. This was the first moment that he really seized initiative for himself and was just like, I don't care what they do to me right after this. I'm going to say what I want to say and do what I want to do. So maybe in this instance, you could say maybe there's potential for Conquerors Hockey here, but in that case, I don't know. I think that a lot of characters should have Conquerors Hockey. Christian Barraza, thanks for the 5. Most notable top tiers in the series have biological children except Whitebeard. Is Weevil Oda's way of giving him a son, or can there be someone else? I don't think Weevil is Whitebeard's son. I think that with everything we know now, it's much more likely that Weevil is some sort of a clone of Whitebeard. Leo Recto, thanks for the 2. Imagine the OP is a piece of meat. That's Luffy's dream. I think that'd be taking the gag a bit too far. Not a Pro 64, thanks for the 5. Prisons are hype. Shiryu, god damn it. Peanut says, this is thanks for the 2. Hi Morge, you should play Celeste, best game. So, interesting story about Celeste. So, one of my good friends, I would say one of my best friends, who passed away during the pandemic, not from COVID, but he happened to pass away during the pandemic, unrelated, okay? So one of my best friends, one of the last memories I had of him was like, he was really into the game Celeste, and he's that type of completionist type person where if he's playing a game, he needs to 100% it. It was just an irritating character trait of his. Now I don't view it as irritating because he's dead, so now you view it as more charming. But at that point in time, I was just like, this is an irritating character trait of this person, right? Yeah, Celeste was one of the, like, I remember just like watching him play, and like it was fun. Like, he ruined with some other people, so I didn't like watch a bunch of him playing Celeste, but oftentimes when I would go over, I'd be like, we'd be watching and be like, oh, John's playing Celeste on screen. So I got to see a good amount of Celeste, and it was clearly a difficult game. The thing is, because he wants to 100% it, like, I think once you beat, my understanding is that, like, he beat Celeste or something like that, and then he found out that there's, like, way more to the game that he still hasn't done, and it actually, like, broke his brain because just beating what he was trying to beat was so difficult. Like, he really, really fucking struggled with that game, and then, like, he got through most of it, and he thought he'd beaten it, and then it just revealed that, like, no, there's way more to the game that he didn't even imagine, and then that kind of, like, mentally fucked him up for a bit. He was just like, how am I gonna, like, finish this? I can't finish this one, and like, we were just like, dude, you don't have to. That's like normal. You don't have to do every single thing in the game. And he was like, no, I have to. We're like, all right, go ahead. I don't think he ever finished it, by the way. Abyssal Leviathan, thanks for the 2. Guys, Mihawk is just a fraud. Stop making excuses. Hey. Mihawk is not a fraud until we see him fight. For now, he's still the world's strongest swordsman. Oh, fun fact. So this same friend, did he inherit my will? So this same friend, I did a trade with him because, like, he used to make fun of me for One Piece all the time because, like, despite what people think, no, anime is not cool for most people. At least in my friend circle back when I lived in Baltimore. Where I'm now, it's different. I have a different group of friends, but my friend circle back when I was in Baltimore. I had one friend who I got into One Piece successfully, like, way back from college, basically, and, like, he's still a big fan. He watches quite a bit of anime now, actually. Maybe more, he's maybe seen more series than I do, maybe, but aside from that, everybody else in that friend group, they viewed anime as basically, like, how many people view anime, right? So me especially revealing that I do videos on One Piece and shit was especially, like, that was especially something that was, like, you know, it was cool because it's like, oh, it's like you've got a following on YouTube and stuff, so that's cool. But then it's like, it's very anime centric. Isn't this like weird hentai shit and stuff? I'm like, no, One Piece is like, I don't know. It doesn't. Anyway, he used to make fun of me for One Piece a lot, and my obsession for One Piece. We all used to make fun of him a lot because of his taste in music, because he liked Tool, which we were just like, this is shitty screamo music and stuff. He was like, no, it's really good. So at one point, we both got pissed enough at each other. We're like, okay, we'll do a trade. So I had to listen to, I think I've explained this before. I have to listen to like an album of Tool for every X number of One Piece chapters he would have to read. And it was good because like over the course of it, he got like, first of all, on my end, I grew to respect Tool quite a bit more. Once you're forced to sit down and actually listen to the whole thing, and you just have to listen to it, basically. I'm like, okay, it's maybe not my cup of tea music-wise, but I can really, really appreciate how good the composition of the music actually is, and how like how many layers there are to it, especially after reading up more on what I'm actually like listening to and everything, right? So I'm not gonna say I'm a Tool fan, but like I think that obviously they're crazy talented and like some of the best musicians, blah, 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 respect, right? So One Piece wise, he started actually really, really, really enjoying the series to the point that he was like, yeah, I'm probably going to keep reading it even past the deal that we're doing it. So he got to Skypiea and was in Skypiea when he died, which was very sad. Obviously for many reasons, but also just because, didn't get to the stuff like Enies Lobby, all that stuff, right? Abyssal Leviathan, thanks for the 2. No, we covered this. CK, thanks for the 5. What was your process in learning how to analyze the themes and elements of story? Your Manga Morge videos are incredibly well realized. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so part of it is just you have to go to school a little bit. School is important for that, right? You have to go to school a little bit. But then the bigger thing is honestly, if you just like I say that anybody can. I think that if any series that you take, like if you're reading or watching it, if you literally just take notes in the process of reading and watching it, right? And I suggest doing it the first time around so you don't have to go back and do it again. But there's so many things that just immediately stand out as like small notable lines, right? Notable lines, notable character moments, notable bits of visual like symbolism and stuff like that. If you just make it a task to note down every single time you see anything that seems like it could mean anything, if you just do that for every chapter, every episode, etc., then eventually you're going to be sitting on a huge pile of notes, and you're just organically going to have a shit ton of connections that make sense to you right away. It really is just taking the time to pay attention. Taking the time to pay attention and like try and look at details. If you just do that, then, and you take the time to put in the work in and come away with like a huge set of notes for something, then you're going to have something that's pretty, I don't know, like you're going to have unconsciously made a lot of connections yourself. And then you're going to have a lot of material to skim back over and look back over and immediately be able to see like, oh, wait, like this is a consistent metaphor that's being used in different ways throughout the story. Like this is a consistent, like Chainsaw Man, if you want to say like dogs and cats, that comes up very frequently, right? But exactly what's being said about that, you can only really make a good argument for that if you, in my opinion, have jotted down every single instance throughout the manga of when dogs and cats are referenced in any sort of way that seems to have any sort of meaning. And then once you put that all together with the other things that you're putting together, then like you can see how A connects to B very well. So, and if you do that process quite a bit, then it just becomes more intuitive doing it for other series. So, but I'm not going to say it's magic in the sense that, like, if I, like, there's series that I follow casually. So, for example, if I'm reading, like, Jujutsu Kaisen, if you asked me tomorrow to make a video on Jujutsu Kaisen, I couldn't do a video on Jujutsu Kaisen that's anywhere near as good as one that I could do on, you know, another One Piece arc, or a Chainsaw Man, or Berserk, or Vinland, or a JoJo's, or something like that, or a Hunter x Hunter, because I just didn't put in any time or effort, like conscious effort, when I was reading Jujutsu Kaisen to think about any of the underlying shit, the subtext, etc., that's going on in there. It's also not that complex of a series in my book, so like if I just got a bit of a refresher and rewatched some stuff, I'd be like, okay, these are the ideas, etc. But at the same time, if you wanted like a really good comprehensive video, I couldn't just do that off the bat. I would probably need to read the whole thing again and this time take notes. Tom, thanks for the 5. When the raid on Marie-Joie happens, Morge will revitalize us and say the raid will fail like Buggy in this chapter. Remember why you kept reading Wano. That's funny. AWOL R, thanks for the 2. Hoping Foxy comes back with Future Sight, imagine. What? Foxy, it's interesting he never came back. It's kind of funny that he never came back. John6788 says, not your fault, Morge. Jujutsu Kaisen story is pretty shallow and mid. Yeah, I mean, there's that argument as well. Okay, let's say something like, Attack on Titan, right? Which, even if you don't like the way shit went down in the ending, and I'm not even familiar with the ending, when I was first reading and watching Attack on Titan, I could tell that there's probably a good amount of subtext here that you could make good videos out of, but I just never made the effort for any of that while I was ever, involved with or reading Attack on Titan. So if I had to make a video on Attack on Titan next week, I wouldn't be able to do a good one compared to a lot of other people who are very familiar with the series. But series that I have a shit ton of notes on, when Vinland Saga Season 2 finishes, I want to drop a video on that because I have a shit ton to say about the Farmland arc, right? I think that the 2 beginning arcs of Vinland, the prologue and the farm, I think that those combined make for the best sort of opening storyline for any series that I've ever read. Golden Age, I don't know, it's hard to compare those two, but yeah, there's just any series that I've put the time into, I think I can do a really good video on, if that makes sense. CK says, thanks for the 5, fantastic answer, brother, here's another 5. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. JP says, it's alright, at least your super got read. Did I miss somebody's? Let me see. Did I miss JP's? Hold on. 1 second. Oh, my bad. Wait, JP! I'm so sorry, man. Okay, JP, thank you for the 20. I'm so sorry, man. Let me do a double check after this to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, and I missed one from Nerve and VMaker. Okay, I'm sorry, JP. Thank you very much for the 20. Sorry, man. Alright. Yeah, video games are a huge commitment these days, more than movies and TV shows. It's lame when people ask you what you've been up to for half a year, and it's just you've been playing one game. Give 3 years to finish a series. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, even a TV series, right? Let's say you're watching a TV series, a live-action TV series, not even an anime. Let's say a live-action series with, 10, 20 episodes or something. That's only... watching a full season of that 20 episodes, that's a third of the length of finishing one video game, depending on how long the video game is. So, I mean, I think it's great that video games have so much content. And again, I'm not serious when I'm knocking video games or whatever, right? I had a lot of fun playing each one of these games, but I also realized, I finished Dark Souls 3, and I was already pretty much... I was just okay, now I want to play the next, I'm going to play Bloodborne. If I can't find a way to play Bloodborne, then I'll just jump into Elden Ring. Because I couldn't find Bloodborne right away, I was okay, do I start Elden Ring or not yet? And I think that gave me enough of a pause for me to really sit back and be holy shit, these last 3 months, I used a lot of my free time just playing, video games. Which... is not a bad thing at all, because I'm really happy I played those games. I love those games. But at the same time, I was I don't want to fall for myself into a cycle where I'm just trying to pick up a new game every month and just throwing away a lot of my free time, even just social stuff, etc., because I'm oh, I'd rather just stay in and play. It's not a bad thing at all, I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying... it's crazy how much a really good game is able to hook you, and how you can just look back and be where did the first 3 months of this year go? And I don't want to feel like that again, so I'm gonna give it a bit of a break before I take some time to play something like an Elden Ring or something like that again. I don't feel like movies and TV shows become quite as much of a time sink in that sense, Partly because, especially with like, let's say TV shows, there are set intervals, right? So you finish like an episode or something like that, or 2 episodes. You get clean breaks or something, right? You might want to take a break or something. But I remember when I was playing Dark Souls, I could finish a whole area and just be rearing to want to go on to the next thing. Like, I could have finished a boss and be like, instead of being like, okay, that's a good stopping point, I was like, no, I want to go to the let me just take a peek into the next area, and then I'm partway through that area, and then I'm like, well, now I'm just gonna go all the way, and then I get to the next boss, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna stay up late just trying to finish this guy. And I don't know. So I think it's good to take breaks at least from that hobby, you know. But I do want to play Elden Ring at some point. Guys, let's get the stream likes to 600. Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 5. Sorry I missed you earlier. I don't think Mihawk wanted to be Pirate King, but he might have wanted to fight Roger. I don't think... That's hard to say, because we saw Mihawk at Roger's funeral, and Mihawk looked really young then. Maybe he was aspiring to fight Roger at the time, but... You know, shortly after that, it's just like... Would that still be... Like, what... Like, as soon as that goal left, what's up for him then, right? He might feel like he was never able to test himself against the best. That's an interesting idea. And it does raise the question, did Mihawk ever fight Rayleigh? Because age-wise, I think when Mihawk was young, at the time of Roger's execution, Rayleigh was still at his prime. Was Mihawk interested in fighting Rayleigh? Did Rayleigh kind of become too old by the time Mihawk got really good? Like, by the time Mihawk reached his prime, was Rayleigh too old, so then Mihawk wasn't interested in that? Was Shanks the only true great swordsman around in the world at the time that Mihawk hit his prime? It's also funny because Mihawk never went to Wano. So it's just like... he was really... Like, it's a good thing that Shanks exists. Otherwise, Mihawk would just be walking around with this title of World's Strongest Swordsman. It's like, who'd you even beat, dude? Like, Momonga? Like, who's the guy that really... You know, was your claim to fame? The Jedi game? I don't want to play any Star Wars games. Missed $5 super from Abyssal Leviathan. Virgil Hawkins, man, you've really been killing it with catching me up on these. I'm sorry that you're having to play just catch up for this. Where's the Miss Super? Okay, I see a few. Hold on. Abyssal Leviathan, thanks for the 5. Given the trajectory, it's not unlikely that Zora fights Mihawk before or at Laugh-Tale. If so, then Zora's Marine/World Government opponent will be stronger. Yeah, I would agree. I just don't think that Mihawk is his last opponent, like the final one that he fights, because whoever he fights last, shouldn't it be in the context of fighting against the World Government? And in that case, shouldn't it be, you know, someone allied with the World Government instead of the Cross Guild, who's probably the World Government's worst enemy at the moment? Tom, thanks for the... No, we covered this. Jolly D. Joestar with the 2. Have you watched Castlevania/played Castlevania? I watched one season of Castlevania. I didn't love it. I didn't like Castlevania that much, what I watched. I understand that it grew a pretty sizable fandom later on. So I've seen a good number of clips just to catch some fights and stuff. Like, I saw Trevor Belmont fighting Death. I saw the main 3 characters fighting Dracula. I saw some fun stuff. But everything felt a little bit stiff about Castlevania to me. Maybe it's just because I'm really used to watching anime, where I feel like... I don't know. I never felt as though the plot was that compelling in Castlevania. I didn't find the characters that compelling in Castlevania, at least for the first season that I watched. And yeah, everything just felt a bit stiff, and there wasn't anything that really stood out about it to me, other than good animation. If I played Castlevania, no. Dark Angel, thanks for the 5. Not kidding, Buggy's speech made me emotional. It was a great speech. It was a great moment. I relate to Buggy as a person who lost his ambition in life. I hope that that's not how you feel right now, man. Mr. Crescent says Castlevania was pretty good but wasn't amazing. Maybe it gets better later on. I felt like the season that I watched, I just didn't even feel like it was really good. I thought it was fine. Samuel Victor says, do you think the Straw Hats are the weakest Yonko crew right now? No, I think Cross Guild is the weakest Yonko crew right now. Not a knock against Mihawk or anything. It's just that Mihawk is the only Yonko level character. Like, after Mihawk, it's just he's just got Crocodile and then a bunch of buggy fodder, you know? Whereas Luffy's got Zoro, King, Jinbei, like Frankie, Robin, like I think Cross Guild's the weakest right now. I think the Blackbeard Pirates are the hardest to place. The Blackbeard Pirates seem really hard to place for me right now because it's like Luffy could like until Blackbeard does whatever. I think the red-haired pirates are probably. This is not including fleets and everything like that. Once you include fleets and allies, it's a stomp for Luffy's crew. But I feel like the red-haired pirates are the strongest. I feel like Cross Guild is the weakest. Then between the Straw Hats and the Blackbeard Pirates have just looked wildly unimpressive so far. Almost every time we see them, it's them getting fucked up in some. You know what? The Blackbeard Pirates have Aokiji. If we give them Aokiji, like if we say Aokiji is a legitimate member, then I think then they're definitely stronger than the Straw Hats in that case. Them versus the red-haired pirates is a weird toss-up because I feel like right now I don't think Blackbeard is at the level to defeat Shanks right now because we saw how much like Law gave him a struggle, you know, like we saw I don't feel like Blackbeard can take Shanks right now. But if we say that Blackbeard is enough of a challenge for Shanks that the rest of his crew could beat Shanks' crew, but then maybe I'm underestimating Ben Beckman. Maybe Ben Beckman can hold out against Aokiji longer than Blackbeard can hold out against Shanks, and then after that, whoever wins. I don't know. It's a hard matchup to call. Alito5 with another tale. I saw Morge at the gym. He was kind of just standing there looking like he didn't know what to do. I thought I'd go up and see if he needed help. Bad idea. The moment he realized I was approaching him, he pulled out and started going ham on a whistle, screaming pervert while pointing at me. Okay. I vaguely remember this. Before I realized it, a bunch of angry buff dudes were coming my way. I'm currently recovering in the hospital. Keep up the great work, Morge. That's funny. Why are people saying king? Where did I say king? What did I say? Wait, what did I say? Alright, doesn't matter. Harden is playing injured. I didn't know he's injured. You said Zoro King? Oh. You know what I mean. Zoro. Yeah, if we're counting Aokiji, then I'd say it's either the red-haired parts or the Blackbeard parts are the strongest right now. Then Straw Hat, then Cross Guild. Oh, Zoro King instead of Sanji. My bad. Zoro and Sanji. You know what I mean. I said King was a Straw Hat. That's funny. Alito5 says, thank you, friends, for the well wishes. My doctor said the ribs will grow back, but I'm not so sure. Did they rip out your ribs? Human says, is it just me or does Blackbeard and his crew feel like a bunch of bums? I feel like Blackbeard and his crew, they need to do some shit, you know? They've been used quite a bit to hype up other characters. So again, Hancock and them, like Hancock taking out some members, Aokiji casually taking out some members, Doc Q and Burgess and them, like Burgess being, you know, abused by Sabo, Doc Q and Van Augur I think has never been made to look bad. Maybe against Beppo a little bit, maybe. Not really. Beppo got Blackbeard too. But Doc Q is I don't know. I mean, obviously, it'd be too much if they like Doc Q shouldn't beat Law or anything. I think it's just that they've been used so far, like with Burgess against Sabo or Boa Hancock against them or Aokiji against them. They've been used a lot as like disposable almost just to hype up other characters. Stephen Green says taking down Law and winning the Payback War counts as something. I mean on screen. I think we want to see something on screen. And taking down Law, I give most of the credit to that to Blackbeard, you know. But I think that's fine because I think that they're not. They're not. We're not at the stage yet. Here's what I personally think will happen. What I personally think will happen is just like we're gonna get Straw Hat's conflict with the Red-Haired Pirates in some way, some sort of Luffy Shanks things, Usopp Yasop, that sort of thing. I think we'll get that sort of conflict, so we get an idea of how strong the Red-Haired Pirates are. Then I think the Red-Haired Pirates lose to the Blackbeard Pirates. I think that's sort of the establishing thing that gives us the hype moment of like how strong are the Blackbeard Pirates, and then I think they lose. The Blackbeard Pirates lose to the Straw Hat Pirates, something like that. Yeah, I agree, Wrench Dodger. They're dangerous, but it's just like, let's see it. Let's see it in action, right? They did get the one successful raid that they had was the one successful thing that they did was against the on Whole Cake Island, but that was mostly Aokiji. He froze Cracker and everything. So with that in mind, it's like, okay, what would they do by themselves? Or like minus Aokiji. The Red-Haired Pirates won't lose to them. I mean, the Red-Haired Pirates should, right? What, Oof is here? Where's Oof? Get rid of him, ban him. I don't see Oof. Blackleg, thanks for being a member for 7 months. Come back to Melee, baby. The streets need your fox. I want to play Melee, but I can't help but feel it's a dying game, which is obviously never the reason you want to play. Like, it's not a dying game. It's just all my hype for Melee is like, my hype for Melee is at an all-time low. I think the moment Ranked is released, I'll feel excited about it again. But I haven't followed. I've seen results and stuff just because they've come across my Twitter feed and like Cody Schwab tweeting and stuff like that. Like, I've seen tweets, so I kind of get the idea of like what's going on, but it just feels as though there's a sort of dark cloud hovering over Melee at the moment. And obviously, like, Melee you don't play because it's the most popular game. You play because you love it, and the community is still very, very active at its core. But definitely for me, part of it is also just like I like watching Melee. I like watching Melee streams. I like keeping in touch with Melee stuff. So the feeling that maybe like more and more people, like, there's less activity in the scene right now, makes me not as interested. Emiliano says Melee Ranked is out. What do you mean? Wait, Melee Ranked is out? I thought it's only for patrons. What are you talking about? Is Ranked out for everybody or just for patrons? This is very, very important. Is Ranked out for everybody or just for patrons? Is Ranked free now? Blackleg Sanji says, do you think Zoro will get a training arc or new skill upgrade? Because he didn't learn anything new to fight Mihawk after time skip. Oh, it's still patrons? Okay. I think he could get something new this arc, but I think we got the foundations of what he needed. To me, I think we got the bare bones of what he needed in sorry, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Fucking Wano, the arc before this. Because we saw that he has Ashura, right? Which up till now was the thing that we were waiting on him to bust out again, right? His strongest technique. We saw how strong Ashura was, but it doesn't seem like he can use it consistently. But then we saw him master Advanced Conqueror's Haki. So I think that the two things, and we know Ashura is some manifestation of Conqueror's Haki that he just hadn't gotten down yet. So to me, the only thing that's missing is him just putting the two together, right? He's got two ingredients for something really, really strong, in my opinion, which is mastered Ashura, I suppose. I mean, like, the one time he used Ashura, he scarred Kaido, which is a fairly big deal. So what would he be like if he could just use that all the time? You know, Ashura mode, etc. The Hippie Man, thanks for the 7. Do you see the weaker members of the crew learning or boosting their Haki? Which members don't have Haki? Bring back Bon Clay. Curry gets Ring 5 2023. I don't need the war. If you guys remember, I was hardcore rooting for the Warriors last year. They just won a ring. I don't need to see them win a ring again. They're good as is. They got their ring. I feel like they almost don't even deserve a ring this year. After I don't want to see Draymond win a ring. Like, I was always 50-50 on Draymond, how I feel about him. Like, you know, when I'm rooting for the Warriors, like, cool. Like, his shenanigans, I like his podcast and stuff. But at this point, I'm just like, fuck this dude. This dude, I don't need to see him get carried to another ring by Steph Curry and think he's really good. The Warriors got their ring. Like, I think last year checked off everything I needed to see for the Warriors. They solidified their legacy. It's like, they did it without anyone, like, without 2015, the opponent being injured. They did it without Kevin Durant. They basically proved, like, yeah, at full strength, it's just a really, really fucking good team. It's just a really, really good team. Steph Curry proved that he can be really, really, really great when everything is on his shoulders, and he's evolved into that player. He got his finals MVP. There's nothing anyone can say about him anymore. I don't care anymore about the Warriors, like, winning this year. I want to see LeBron win or Jokic win. I'm good with either of those two. That's where I'm at. As for the other questions, other Straw Hat crew members, no. I don't see, because maybe Nami getting observation Haki. Simply because I feel like everybody else has other areas clearly where they can improve their abilities. So, like, Chopper, we already saw, if you can give Beppo a boost like that, I wonder what Chopper is working up or cooking up for himself, you know? Robin, she can do more with her demonio form and stuff, I'm sure. Frankie can create more things. I would rather see the Straw Hats, the lower level Straw Hats, excel in their areas of expertise, I guess. Their own unique type of abilities, rather than just seeing more Haki power-ups. I think Usopp is the one Straw Hat that it really made sense for, just because Usopp's fighting ability has always I feel like it fits his character more, that he's just the type of character, because his spirit matters quite a bit, I think, in the context of One Piece, and just focusing on him developing Haki, I think, is important in that sense, because that's all, like, his strength of spirit has always been important in fights. But on top of that, I always like the idea that Usopp doesn't have the best tools, but he is able to use them really intelligently. So adding observation Haki into his mix, I think, was perfect for that. And then I think with Nami, the only reason I think that her getting observation Haki would fit would be because right now I feel like her abilities are almost, like, so broken relative to how strong she is. They're so broken that they practically do the fights for her, right? We saw with her against Ulti, right? Her abilities, they practically do the fights for her, which is not entertaining to me. I think that she's a character that needs something to buff her base abilities, so maybe observation Haki or something like that, to make it feel more like it's not just a pure glass cannon, either I one-shot you with some auto heat-seeking lightning bolt or something like that, but, like, something a back and forth, like her having to think, her having to strategize, dodge, maybe stuff like that, you know? Maybe more of a back and forth, and I think Haki could do that, because her base form is just, relative to what she can do offensively, her base form this far in the New World is just too weak to make for engaging fights. Brook needs an upgrade. I could see Brook getting Haki. I think Brook getting Haki could be cool, just because swordsmanship is basically his thing, and improving his, like, Devil Fruit abilities in the context of this, it's hard to say what exactly he would do. JWP, thanks for the 20, man. I think observation Haki will be Zoro's last upgrade. Interesting. I think Mihawk has the best observation in the series. That's very possible. Like Hawkeye, Mihawk, I don't know. Oda planned for his nickname to be Clairvoyant. Oh, is that true, or is that just a Okay, we'll see. Plus, hockey is learned through battle. His rival Shanks has somehow managed to learn to negate future sight. That's really interesting. I think it would be a cool contrast, though, if Zoro's thing is more he's really good at offensive hockey, and Mihawk's thing is that he's really good at observation hockey. And it's just more of a contrast rather than Zoro becoming good at what Mihawk's good at. But it could be like a Luffy Katakuri situation where it's like that's the one thing I'm still missing. Um, I also think that if Zoro fights Shiryu, observation hockey will be really, really important to that. So him getting good at that, either before fighting Mihawk or after fight, I think that that could make a lot of sense as well. All right, guys, we're gonna call the stream in about 5 minutes. Hmm. People are Robin lacks stamina. I just don't know if that's that important to her fights because her fights are kind of like she wins them pretty quick. Robin doesn't get into long, extended back and forths. Rolf says Nami can run forever, so yeah, she's definitely good at running. JWP says forgot about the Shiryu. LMAO, it's coming together now. Yeah, I think observation will be really important for the Shiryu fight. I like that because it's a matchup thing in that case, right? Great on Weber says Mihawk takes that fully developed Mihawk Seraphim as his big moment. But that's like taking out. That's like I beat myself. Granted, with Lunarian shit mixed in, but it's just like it's still like your techniques and stuff. It's just like how do we scale that, dude? Blackleg says, did we already talk about the Bucks choking? The Bucks. I'm gonna say this real quick, right? Because I know NBA, blah 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 blah. But we're close to the end of the stream, right? The Bucks losing because I watched the end of that game last night. It was just this is because I was willing to say that Giannis was the best player in the world for the last year or so. I think I was on that train. I didn't think it was a big gap, and I thought that there was many players who are basically on his level and are kind of basically equally valid for that title. I was just like, by default, I'll give it to Giannis just because it feels like that feels about right. But this game really, for me, highlighted a lot about, and I'm not trying to knock Giannis because I still think he's like a great player, top 5, etc. But it really highlighted to me like when your entire game is built on, the physicality stuff that he does, and he's not a pure post player like Shaq, right? Like he relies on driving and stuff to the basket. At the end of the day, having deficiencies in fundamental basketball skills, deficiencies relative to other superstars, right? Relative to the most skilled players in the game. I'm saying obviously he's gonna be better at fucking shooting and shit than you or I, whoever's watching. But I'm saying deficiencies relative to his level. That stuff comes out, and like he's ultimately it feels weird calling him the best basketball player when he's like you could say LeBron's bad at free throws relatively. He is bad at free throws relative to his ability, but he's nowhere near like that. Like he's not running from the ball at the end of the game. He's not like scared to have the ball. It was he like LeBron when LeBron goes down the floor at the end of games in general, like throughout a fourth quarter, and it's like he needs to keep the game close or close a game. He's always got a plan. Maybe he's not going to take the shot himself, but it feels like everything is under control. And it's like, you want the ball in his hands. He's going to do something smart 95% of the time, 90% of the time. It's just, there's intent and confidence behind it. And again, even if he doesn't take the shot himself, he's doing something to create some sort of basketball play. With Giannis just like taking the ball, like every time he had the ball towards the end, it was just like fucking lost. So this is not to knock Giannis. This is just something that I'm like thinking about in general, which is just like to appreciate the greatness of LeBron James, which is LeBron is the only player that I've watched since my time watching the NBA, which has only been since 2016. But since that time, there's just a certain stability to LeBron in close game situations, fourth quarter situations and stuff where you just trust him to have the ball and be doing the right shit. And sometimes he's driving and scoring. Sometimes he's just confidently pulling up and stuff like that. Sometimes he's trying to get other people to take the shot. But he's at least opening things up. And it doesn't always work out. It really doesn't. But he's the only player that I just see really not shaken. That's not to say that he doesn't make mistakes, because everybody does and they're human. But there's a difference between, like, making mistakes and whatever the fuck Giannis was doing yesterday, where he just looked like fucking lost. It looked like he didn't know how to play basketball, and he was just lost when he couldn't just straight up drive to the basket. And that's something that, like, that sort of sense of stability and certainty that there is with LeBron James, that you just know that there's going to be, like someone who knows what they're doing is going down the court each time and is confident in these situations each time. I don't think I've seen that consistently from any other NBA player. Like, there are times Kevin Durant has looked, like, amazing, clutch as fuck down the stretch and everything like that. And then there's, like, Boston last year when I'm just like, okay, no, he's fucking lost his head. There are times that Kawhi looks like a fucking Terminator, ice in his veins, right? And then I watch him, like, in the last few games against Denver, like the fourth quarter in Game 7 against Denver back in 2020. And it's just like, dude is fucking lost his head. Like, he's fucking confused as fuck. He's scared of the moment, etc. Steph Curry, amazing. Like, I think Steph is the closest at this moment in time to me feeling confident down the stretch that this dude is, again, not going to necessarily score because people miss shots and stuff like that, but he's confident with the ball, and, like, something's going to open up with Steph Curry on the floor, and he's not scared of the moment, and he's, like, got the right mentality. And there's a certain certainty to that. I think Steph's gotten there as well. Besides that, it's just LeBron. It's just LeBron. That's all I got to say. You guys know what I'm talking about? Maybe you guys will think, like, I'm just too, like, that's not to say LeBron's still, like, I think he's still the best player in the world, because at the end of the day, he's gotten slower. He can't jump as high. He can't score as easily, stuff like that. But just in terms of, like, confidence, calmness, and just knowing what to do, like, maybe even if they don't properly execute it or whatever down the stretch, that happens. Missed shots, blah, blah, blah. But just who do you want to have the ball in your hand for the last, like, 10 minutes of the game? I think it's just, or, like, the last 5 minutes of a close game. I'm just like, if you have LeBron and you give it to LeBron every time, you got a good shot. And I can't say that about anybody else, I think. Maybe Curry right now. David Folman, thanks for the 10. You may have already said this, but what do you think are the odds T-Bone just faked his death for this random dude because he's so nice? I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be amazing. I don't want T-Bone to be dead. Keyboarding says Braun been to the finals a million times. That's really what it is, which is just that it's a sense of experience. It's just like he's just done this so many times before. It feels like he just knows what to do in spots. And again, that doesn't mean they always win. They fucking lost to the Grizzlies yesterday. But it's more just the sense that it's a subtle thing that you just get when you're watching the game. It's just like, okay, this dude knows what to do, and he feels confident, and it feels like there's a general game plan going on here. Curry, same thing. I feel like at this point there's a level of just calmness, stability, just like he's not scared of the moment or what's happening at that point in time. KD, I think, still gets shook. And I think I saw him shook at the end of Game 1 versus the Suns. Obviously, all of last series, or Game 1 versus the Clippers. Obviously, all of last series versus the Celtics last year. Yeah. Funnily enough, Jokic also seems very confident. For no reason at all. That's one of the reasons I low-key think Jokic is better than Embiid, although Embiid might prove me wrong. I don't mind. I don't feel strongly either way. But Jokic, I feel like he's just got a sense of command in, like, down-the-stretch situations and stuff like that. That's just, very, very rare. Blackleg is saying not to say Dame is on their level, but he does kind of share that same confidence / not fear of the moment, kind of. Yeah, I think as much as I've knocked Dame before, because I think he gets elevated to something he hasn't quite earned yet, I think that Dame, in theory, is kind of like that. I need to see him more in moments. Funnily enough, you know who I think has it? It's fucking Jimmy Butler. For no fucking reason in the world. that's what I think. That's the thing that like really captivates people about Jimmy Butler, because it's not just he's putting up great numbers. It's just like it feels like he's just absolutely fearless, and he's very very confident in everything. It's just a sense of like certainty, you know? Jason Tatum doesn't fucking have that, you know? I can't stress the number of times I'm trying to say it's not about how many points you score or like who makes or doesn't make clutch shots or whatever in the end. It's just like the sense of like I know what the fuck I'm doing and I have confidence in what I'm doing, and like across this final stretch of the game, like if you just keep giving me the ball, like like even if something doesn't work out or a play doesn't work out, like there is intent and thought and like a decent chance of success behind it. Whereas like a lot of players, they just become like shot chuckers, and like maybe they go in and then they got called clutch, but they might just be shot chuckers at the end of the day. He's MJ's son. He's like ace. Dude, if Jimmy Butler, I think it's been confirmed he's not Michael Jordan's son, but I so badly want it to be true. I really, really want it to be true. I think that'd be so cool. And here's the fucked up thing. If Jimmy Butler is Jordan's son, then Bronny James is fucking screwed. Because it's like, you know, nobody's expecting Bronny James to live up to the standard of LeBron. Right? Nobody expects that. But, if it turns out that Michael Jordan's son was also an NBA player and was actually really, really fucking good, then suddenly it's going to be the same thing all over again. Bronny James is now going to have to live up to he's going to have to try and be better than Michael Jordan's son. But I think it's been confirmed. Blackleg says Jimmy's not just fearless, he feasts on the fear of others. Yeah, dude, it's actually terrifying. Like, it's actually pretty scary. As like a fan of an opposing team, because I remember in the finals in 2020, it just made no sense to me at the time. We didn't know how good Jimmy Butler was in the playoffs until 2020, and even in 2020, a lot of people thought it was a fluke, right? So it was just so bizarre to me as a LeBron fan in the 2020 finals, where I'm like, this is supposed to be easy. And then this dude who's really, at that time, not considered a top 10 or even top 15 player. I'm like, how's he, like, talking back to LeBron? Like, he's just, like, just as confident in LeBron and, like, looking him eye to eye and just being, like, on that same level of just, like, knowing exactly what to do down the stretch. Like, how's he doing this? It's like, this is so fucking bizarre. I've never seen this before. And at the end of the finals, it was just, like, a weird... I was literally in my head, I was just like, is it possible LeBron loses to fucking Jimmy Butler? Now, this year, if LeBron loses to Jimmy Butler, I think I get it. Respect the guy more now. But at the time, it was just like, who the fuck does he think he is? Like, you're not a superstar, dude. What are you doing? And that was, like, some of the most confident play I've ever seen from anybody in an NBA Finals, in a clearly mismatched situation. And after LeBron won, I was like, okay, that was just some weird anomaly. Forget about it. Jimmy Butler, for some reason, forget about it. And then 2 years later, it's like he nearly beats the Celtics almost single-handedly. And I'm like, holy shit, it's this dude. And then this year, it's like he did it to Giannis. He's just clearly more confident than Giannis. I don't know. He had Giannis scared. Cigar Verk says, thanks for the 5. How do you watch sports like basketball or even American football not being offensive with a break like every 5 minutes? It's annoying. Real football better. How do you not being offensive, or even sports like basketball or even American football not being offensive with a break? Not being offensive with a break like every 5 minutes. It's annoying. Real football better. I think basketball is a very offensive-oriented sport. I get what you mean by the ads, but I don't mind the number of ads, honestly, just because you want to take breaks almost. So I don't know how many ads are in like real football. But I actually really don't mind. I'm not a big fan of American football at all. Basketball really is a more casual watching sport. It really is at the end of the day. Until it's like really big games and stuff like that, then you really want to be locked in. But basketball is great because you can have like multiple games on. You can be watching very casually. Lots of points being scored. Game of runs you can turn off. It's just a... Yeah, it can be a very casual, easy to watch casual sport, to be honest. So I don't mind the number of breaks or anything like that in basketball because I'm not necessarily on the edge of my seat an entire basketball game. Yeah, basketball is the most casual. American football, you really have to sit down and be invested in the game. You got to watch the full game. I mean, you don't have to watch the full game, but you have to be invested in the nuances of the game more. Basketball, you only have to learn X number of players' names, and you kind of got the gist of it. That's really it. Oh, shoot. I should call the stream soon. All right, guys. Let me do a quick double check, make sure I didn't miss any supers. And besides that, I think I'm going to call the stream. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Yeah, I think I got everybody. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This was a fun stream. Yeah, I will say, dude, American football, like, to really learn, like, to really become a true fan of it, it requires more learning and investment and, like, watching than I feel like getting into. Like, because enough of my friends are big football fans, basically, at least growing up and in college and everything, that I was first forced to learn aspects of it and, like, just be invested in, like, big games and stuff like that and have fun watching big games. And I can really get why it's more entertaining for so many people than basketball. I think, like, football is a way of just doing drama and really building up to, like, there's just a sense of grandeur to football that I think basketball maybe just can't have. But I definitely prefer basketball, and in my mind, I think basketball is a more fun sport to watch. But I also haven't given enough time to really try and learn football, like American football, to be the one to make a comparison. I don't know. All right, guys. I also think that being a fan of American football, a lot of it comes from, like, growing up in a football family or culture or whatever, and that wasn't my family because that's where you really build a lot of your fandom and stuff from. Okay. All right, guys. I will talk to you all later. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.